Underdog Fantasy is the fastest-growing fantasy app and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Just jump on UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft your team, and that's it. And if drafts aren't your thing, they also have a pick'em game where you can win 20 times your money in a single night. Use promo code RADIO, and Underdog will double your first deposit when you sign up with up to $100 in bonus cash. Deposit $100, get $100 free. That's promo code RADIO. Terms and conditions apply.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
This is Speedball Mike Bailey. You're listening to Keepin It Strong Style. Yes.
Yo, this is Rich Latter from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review Lonestar Shootout, preview Hyper Battle, and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, ProWrestlingTees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
It is Wednesday, April 6th in Japan, April 5th, Tuesday, here in the States. Jeremy, do you know where you were 3 years ago today?
3 years ago today, I think we were in New York for Wrestlemania Weekend.
That's right. But more specifically,
we're in Madison Square Garden, right?
That's right. This is the 3-year anniversary of the Madison Square Garden G1 Supercard. And yeah, a lot of time has passed. A lot of things have changed. I mean, on that night, we saw Dragon Lee win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. Like, that dude doesn't even work in this company anymore. Kota Ibushi defeated Tetsuya Naito for the Intercontinental title. That's not even a thing anymore. Jay White didn't have a beard at the time.
That's true, yeah.
Him and Okada wrestled each other for the IWGP title. That's not even a belt that exists in this company anymore. The only thing that stays constant is Zack Sabre Jr. tapping out people. He definitely tapped out Tanahashi that night.
Yeah. Anything else fun happened that night?
I mean, there were other things that happened that night, but I would prefer not to talk about on the
podcast. Oh man, but there's one other thing. There was Jeff Cobb and Osprey, now stablemates. They kicked off the show.
Yeah, they were in a title versus title. Ring of Honor was a thriving company that was at the zenith of their existence at that time. This was the largest show in the history of that company's entire existence. And they're now owned by Tony Khan, and they had a pretty good show over the past weekend. But we were talking about it off the air, and I was like, dang, I think they did like a little around 2,000, which is pretty good considering. But I think like the average attendance of ROH shows from like 2017 to 2019, the average attendance was higher for those years on average than what they did, even just this past weekend, which people are calling a success, which it is. But I mean, damn, like just think about how far they've fallen.
Yeah, it's crazy. I did hear they did a pretty good pay-per-view buys. Did like 20,000 pay-per-view buys, not including Honor Club numbers. So
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I canceled my Honor Club, and that was just before I found out Tony Khan was buying them, because I was like, what's the point of having this? You know what I mean?
right.
My big gripe was that there was a point where they were uploading on a weekly basis. This is just before the pandemic started. They were uploading their whole back catalog, and then they just stopped in the middle of the process. So there was like a lot of good stuff on there. But I was trying to watch the Jimmy Jacobs BJ Whitmer steel cage blow off match, and I waited like 2 years and it just never got uploaded. So I was like, all right, I don't need this service anymore. You guys aren't going to let me watch these guys skewer each other in the head with syringes. I don't know why I have this service. So
Yeah, I got rid of mine, I think, before COVID hit. It's been a while.
I had a lot of services. I got rid of everything except for Peacock and New Japan World. So,
But yeah, well, speaking of WrestleMania weekend, we had that weekend this past weekend with tons of shows. Had the Lonestar Shootout, had a lot of New Japan guys all over the weekend.
Yeah, like literally, like there was. I mean, we can go through some of it, but I mean, yeah, like Rocky Romero was everywhere, and Jay White was wrestling on shows, and Suzuki and Ishii were all on a bunch of different shows. I mean, there's all those LA Dojo guys were showing up in different places. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I was there in Dallas. I went to 9 shows, saw a lot of the New Japan guys. So pretty long weekend, pretty tired weekend, but it was fun.
Yeah, I can hear it. You sound tired.
Yeah, man. I had so many flight delays yesterday. My flight from Dallas to New Orleans got delayed, and then my flight from New Orleans back to Tampa got super delayed. I didn't end up getting back to Tampa. I think we landed like around like 1:45, like 1:30, 1:45 in the morning. And then by the time you get on the tram and get to economy parking, get in the car and drive home, I didn't get home till like around 2. So yeah, pretty long travel day yesterday.
Remember, we got delayed coming back from Dallas during Resurgence, and then we stayed in some it was a terrible restaurant, but we just kept ordering food and like getting more and more alcohol because it's like there's literally nothing to do in this airport whatsoever.
Yeah, was it Resurgence or was it
I think
G1?
It was Resurgence.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was the most recent one.
Okay, yeah, I was getting the mix up. That's right. We did have a layover. We flew from California to Dallas and then Dallas back to Tampa.
Yeah, because I spent entirely too much money on food that wasn't even good. It was like $17 for like some chicken tenders, like $18 for a personal pan pizza.
Yeah.
$12 for a beer. Like it was crazy.
And it wasn't even like branded. It wasn't a Smackadilla. It wasn't a Powerbomb pizza.
Actually, it was some brand, but I don't remember. I would speak poorly of them, but I just don't remember. I mean, they left such little impression on me that I don't even remember who they were.
Yeah. But yeah, we can talk about the weekend here. We had a question from Rambo and Slam Pig. It said, which NJPW affiliate talent had the best showing for WrestleMania weekend, and who had the best blood sport match?
Ooh, that's a tough question. So, I don't know, man. Who do you think was out there like really showcasing themselves on a high level from New Japan? Because, hot take, I didn't think many guys that worked for New Japan were really leaving an indelible impression on most of these shows. I feel like they all kind of figured out the Suzuki grift when he works North America, like just do the hits, hit the high spots, give the people what they want, don't put in too much effort. And I feel like pretty much across the board, that's what we saw from most of the guys. I mean, I don't know if you have a different opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we already know the deal with Suzuki. Yeah, he has it all kind of figured out. He does his forearms and chops, his no selling, his murder grandpa faces. Crowd eats it up, but he doesn't have to do much. And Ishii has learned the same grift now. Ishii, he had, I saw him wrestle live 3 times, and they were all very good matches. I would say, that 3.5 to 3.75 range, but he did not go to the heights of an Ishii that would normally go. I mean, we've seen Ishii on WrestleMania weekend before, New Orleans and New York, and that guy, is going out there and killing it. But
we'll put it into this context. When was the last time you remember seeing Ishii have a singles match that was like less than 4 that didn't involve Evil?
It's been a while.
Yeah, like it almost never happens. But like I feel like it had to have been intentional because look at the list of guys he wrestled this past week: Chris Dickinson, Eddie Edwards, Timothy Thatcher. Those all sound like super intriguing matchups, and they were good. But I had almost all of them at 3.5, literally. And I feel like, Ishii just went in there, he did the stuff he knew people would like, but he wasn't like working like the kind of match he had with like, say, Moose at Resurgence, if you get what I mean.
Right. Yeah, but as far as, affiliated guys, I know technically he probably doesn't have a contract yet, but Speedball Mike Bailey, he made his New Japan debut at Lonestar Shootout, and we will go into a full review of that, but this guy was all over the place. I saw him. So I went to 9 shows, and he was pretty much wrestled on 5 or 6 of the 9 shows that I went to, and pretty much had a 4-star match almost every time. This guy was absolutely killing it. The Jay White match was great. He wrestled Bandito at the WrestleCon Super Show. That was great. He had a match with Effie on the Ziggy Dice show, which was more of a comedy match, but that was still fun. This guy he was a Bloodsport. He wrestled Yumura on Bloodsport. That was a really good match. This guy was like all over the place and just having great matches all the time. I heard a lot of hype about him, from PWG matches and stuff like that, but I've never seen a full match of his. I've only seen the highlights, and dude was raw. He was super cool, and talked to him after one of the shows. Got dropped for the show, which you'll hear at the beginning of this episode, and just talk to him about, I'd love to see him in Super Juniors. And he was a super nice dude, cool to talk to. But he overall, he's like my MVP for the weekend, kind of the breakout guy. The Iron Man for the weekend. I know there's a ton of other guys that, Blake Christian, I know he wrestled on a ton of shows as well. But for me, in my opinion, I think Speedball was the guy that stood out, really made a name for himself and kind of New Japan affiliated.
Yeah, I saw a tweet from Blake Christian where he said he might be the only person in history to work ROH, Impact, GCW, and New Japan all in the same day, which is pretty crazy. And he definitely was like putting in the work. But yeah, I gotta agree with you. Every couple of years, well, it used to be every year during WrestleMania weekend, there'd be like 1 or 2 guys that kind of made their stamp and made their name during that weekend. Having a lot of great performances and great outings. And this past weekend, it really did feel like it was Speedball Mike Bailey, a guy that he's really well known in Canada, really well known in Japan, and over Europe, but like hasn't been able to get into the States here because of a mishap when he was trying to come work for Evolve about 5 years ago, and he got arrested and was banned from entering the United States for 5 years. So there have been people that have kind of been clamoring and waiting for his reemergence, and now he's here. I do know he did show up on the New Japan show, but, technically he is signed to Impact currently.
Yeah.
So he's got a contract with them. So I don't know if via that route he'll be able to continue to work New Japan, which I hope he does, because the match he had with Jay White was definitely the match of the night. We're gonna give you guys a review, but that he killed it everywhere he went.
Obviously we're seeing other Impact guys like Josh Alexander being able to come over more. So I think, now obviously Chris Bay, who's a part of Bullet Club. So yeah, I think with that Impact New Japan working relationship that they have going now, that we could see more. And pretty much every guy who's had a USFJ Open Challenge has showed up, has come back again. Jay Lethal's been back. Swerve's been back. So it's kind of setting a precedent. Like it's almost like a tryout. And if you pass, then you're coming back.
Yeah, someone else who had a good showing for themselves during this past weekend was Chris Dickinson. He returned from injury. He defeated Minoru Suzuki in the main event, Bloodsport 8. He lost Tomohiro Ishii at Lonestar Shootout, but then he did defeat Matt Cardona at the midnight show for Joey Janela Spring Break. So, you know, 3 pretty high profile matches coming off of injury. You kind of have to shout him out. But, oh, another guy too, John Moxley. I know that he's kind of technically more an AEW guy right now, but I mean, uh, the match he had with Biff Busick is one of the absolute standouts of the entire weekend from Bloodsport.
Mm.
And then he defended the GCW title, I believe, at Spring Break the first night. I forget, was it AJ Gray?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and I heard good things about that too. So I mean, he wasn't like all over the place, but the matches that he did have, he kind of turned out. So
Yeah. So those would be the top guys. And, Bloodsport was the first show of the weekend that I went to. And for me, the best match, like you mentioned, is that John Moxley versus Biff Busick match. It was a semi-main event of the show, and it was just awesome, hard-hitting, bloody brawl. Biff got busted open and was just wearing that crimson mask. Raucous crowd into both guys. Big entrance for Moxley. Just a really, really violent match. And for me, I think that's my best match of the weekend. That I saw live.
I was gonna say, I was like, I don't know if that was the best of the weekend, but it was really great. Yeah. And I'm glad you got to experience, like, well, you know what? When we went to Bloodsport in Tampa, we did see that Barnett versus Moxley match, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But we kind of talked about that on the air, how that there was a lot of reasons where I wasn't happy at that show, because I didn't feel like it was a real Bloodsport show, not because of the performance of the wrestlers, but because of the crowd and the atmosphere and the circumstances with COVID. And we kind of got the shaft when it comes to WrestleMania weekend in Tampa. But you actually got to experience like what I would call a true blue blood sport. I mean, I'm sure that the atmosphere is totally different, like night and day between those two shows.
Yeah, bro. It was such a great atmosphere in that warehouse that the collective was running all weekend. You just had that raucous GCW crowd. Everybody was into everything. You had some intense fights, and overall, it was just a really great show to be at. If you've never been to a Bloodsport Mania weekend, I definitely recommend going. Want to give a shout out to 2 guys, Colton and Chris. So I went to a majority of these shows by myself, and this Bloodsport show, Colton and Chris, 2 guys that I met and we're talking through the show, and marking out together, and they told them about Keepin It Strong Style. They pulled out their phone, subscribed immediately. So hopefully you guys are checking out the show this week. It was great meeting you guys and hanging out with you guys. And so
they better be listening right now. If they subscribed and they're not listening, then I want them to unsubscribe. Okay, I only want real listeners, real, none of those inflated numbers. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, they were cool. But yeah, that overall Bloodsport was just a really, really fun time. Other New Japan guys on there. We had Team Filthy's Royce Isaacs. He took on Bad Dude Tito. We had Alex Coughlin taking on Slade. We mentioned Mox and Biff, Suzuki and Dickinson, Umura and Speedball, Barnett and Jonah. So those were the New Japan affiliated matches from Bloodsport.
Yeah, and I didn't see any bad matches on that show. I went back and rewatched the stuff that I missed. Everything was really good. Even surprisingly, the Josh Barnett versus Jonah match was a lot better than I anticipated it being, and I loved the finish with the the half crab turn into a heel hook. Like that was really cool from Barnett. But Jonah, like I thought he had a really good accounting of himself as a monster, kind of in that ring, which was good. But the New Japan affiliated quote unquote match that probably was best, I would say, is probably Suzuki and Dickinson. I didn't think it was as good as the first 2 matches we've seen from them, but Chris Dickinson getting the big win finally over Suzuki, especially coming off of injury, I thought that was pretty incredible. What I did not like was the audience who they booed Chris Dickinson. I mean, they booed him pretty vehemently, and they were angry. I think partly because the match ended more abruptly than they were anticipating, and then also because at this point, like Minoru Suzuki is so beloved that people don't even want to see him lose on a WrestleMania weekend. But I thought it was kind of bullshit. I mean, Dickinson, if this match had happened not on a WrestleMania weekend, but like let's say in Philly or Jersey or something like that, and it was in front of a real GCW crowd, the atmosphere would have probably been very, very different. But because it was a flying crowd and everyone was, kind of hoping to see Suzuki win, they kind of shit on Chris's moment, and he cut a really angry promo. He even, said some stuff on social media again. But like, I was literally like kind of gutted for the guy because came out there and he iced the legend, and it should have solidified him, and people were fucking shitting on it.
Yeah, man, it's just the aura of Suzuki, and we've seen Suzuki live several times now, but I believe there's still a ton of people who have not seen him live. It's Mania weekend. Suzuki's kind of one of those big, draws and must-see kind of things, and people are so into him and want to see him gotch pile driver people and win. So when he lost, he was a fan favorite, even though it was a GCW affiliated show and ring, and that's, Dickinson's territory. People were so into Suzuki. People, Kazunita Ray, they were into that. They were into everything Suzuki was doing. There was Suzuki meet and greet before the show. So people were really into Suzuki that weekend, especially the GCW crowd. And so, yeah, it did suck that Dickinson got booed like that, coming back from that injury. It should have been a big moment, but the people just loved Suzuki so much.
The other thing, too, is like this is the match for the whole weekend. I saw Suzuki wrestle a lot. I didn't even see all his appearances. And, this was the match where I think he put in the most effort to try and put over Chris. So, I think sometimes people, I don't know, when you boo like that, I guess it's cool, whatever, you're a fan, and I guess you're entitled to do that, but like you kind of look like a fucking mark. You know what I mean? Like you're also shitting on Suzuki because he also was the guy that was putting in the effort to make it possible for Chris to look believable in winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you're booing both of their performance, whether you realize it or not. Like I don't know. Like there's a time and a place. I mean, I've done my fair share of booing guys, when I feel like it's appropriate, but I didn't think this, I don't know. That was pretty ugly. Like I've never really seen that at a WrestleMania weekend too much. I try to stay, I don't know. I feel like we're usually in pretty smart crowds, but I don't know. Sometimes GCW, man, I don't vibe with those crowds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Another New Japan affiliated match. It was JR Kratos taking on Timothy Thatcher. That ended up being a pretty bloody 1-2. Kratos also had a crimson mask and got a lot of heat from the crowd as well.
Yeah, I like that too. I liked everything. Speedball and Yuya Uemura was very good. I mean, the whole event. If you didn't see Bloodsport, in my opinion, I thought Bloodsport was the show of the weekend. The only other one that I saw that I think gives it a run for its money is probably ROH Supercard of Honor. But top to bottom, from just a quality of match standpoint and just vibe and outcome and everything like that, I felt like this was better. Honestly, I felt like this was the show of the whole weekend.
Yeah, and out of all the shows I attended live, this was definitely my favorite show and show of the weekend as well. Then after that, after Bloodsport, I went over to AAA, caught the last half of that show. That was a pretty fun show, seeing Bandito and Laredo Kid in a three-way with Flamita. That was a lot of fun, and had Psycho Clown in there with Black Taurus in the main event, and former Bullet Club member Double J Jeff Jarrett coming out doing a angle attacking Psycho Clown. Then after that, went to the Mark Hitchcock Memorial WrestleCon Super Show. Had a lot of New Japan guys on there. We had Suzuki against Biff Busick, Speedball versus Bandito, Thatcher versus Ichi. We had Laredo Kid, Michael Oku, and Ray Horace against Ace Austin, Black Taurus, and Josh Alexander. We had Team Onita versus Team PCO. This was a mystery 10-man tag. So on Onita's team, we had Cole Cabana, Juice Robinson, Ricky Morton, and Robert Gibson. And then on PCO's team, he had Barry Horowitz, Fandango, and Jimmy Wang Yang, and Enzo.
Yeah, a good show. I was kind of bouncing around myself, even though I didn't attend WrestleMania weekend. I had the luxury of being able to watch a lot of this at home, which is kind of a new experience for me because we typically are always at WrestleMania weekend. But I liked the show. Um, Suzuki and Beth Busick was good. Probably didn't live up to what I was hoping it to be. Same thing with Thatcher and Ishii, but Speedball and Bandito blow away. That six-man tag that you mentioned with Loretto Kid and Michael Oku and those guys blow away. Those were like the two matches where I was like, holy fuck, like you need to see this. Um, and Biff like came into this match all busted up because of the Bloodsport match, and Suzuki really like played into that and just like reopened that cut. Very, very, very bloody affair. Like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, WrestleCon Super Show was a lot of fun. In previous years, WrestleCon Super Show ends up being in contention for.
It's like the premier event.
Right. It's usually one of the best shows of the weekend, but compared to New York and New Orleans, this one was not quite on the same level as those two. And ultimately, I think it was mainly the crowd. And for WrestleCon this year, it definitely felt like more of a WWE crowd. I saw so many WWE T-shirts, WrestleMania T-shirts. I saw a ton of WWE belts being walked around. It definitely seemed like it's with a heavier concentration of WWE fans. So I even heard people behind me like not knowing who some of the people were on the Super Show, and so definitely seemed like it wasn't your smartest crowd, and so a lot of stuff didn't get reactions that they normally would get.
Yeah, I was kind of watching it. That definitely translated. Very surprised at the lack of response to a lot of the good stuff that was happening on the shows. The crowd was pretty silent, and it was strange because WrestleCon, some of the other shows they had, like the New Japan show and the Impact show and stuff like that, like the AAA show, they had good crowds. But this, for whatever reason, the Mark Hitchcock show just didn't really attract like your typical indie Smark fan. But that does kind of make sense. I worked WrestleCon last year in conjunction with Sai Dojo, and I mean, everybody that was there was like, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but they're all like belt mutants. Like it was all people just, going around taking pictures with the wrestlers. And,
Yeah.
Getting them to sign their merch and getting them to sign their belts. And it was almost solely like a hardcore, diehard WWE type fan base. So I could see how people who are attending WrestleCon in the daytime, they see the advertisements for the Super Show. They think, oh, I should go see that. You know what I mean? I think that's the connection there.
Right.
The big thing
there was,
though,
Bloodsport too, or I mean not Bloodsport. Spring Break Night 1, I think, was running the same time also.
right? And I feel like that's the big thing was that like WrestleCon didn't draw the same kind of attendances that it normally does, and most of the type of audience and fan that you typically see at a WrestleCon or a WWN type show, they kind of made their residence just at like the collective shows, almost primarily. So definitely a different vibe. It feels like GCW and the collective are sort of like taking over the WrestleMania weekend from the indie perspective.
But yeah, so a Super Show was a fun show. Low key almost beat up a fan in the main event with it was Loki and Homicide versus the Briscoes.
I'm surprised he's getting booked by anybody that's not MLW at this point. So it's, whatever.
Yeah, so that was interesting. So moving on to
on that same day though, I did get a chance to check out the Glory Pro show, the early part of the day, and I saw Rocky Romero team with Davey Richards, the No Remorse Corps. They teamed together for the first time in a decade. Nothing special, but it was kind of feel good, fun, sort of moment. They got the big win over, whatever local tag team is kind of established there in Glory Pro. There was some questions like, will we be seeing them team together again in the future? Who knows?
maybe.
We'll see.
So then on Friday, first show I went to was Ziggy Dice's Trouble in Paradise 2. More of a kind of a comedy type show. Only really New Japan adjacent person was Speedball Mike Bailey, and he took on Effie in a submission match, and that was just kind of a, like I said, more of a kind of a comedy based matchup there.
I thought there was an angle with the LA Dojo Young Lions.
Oh yeah, that's right. That totally slipped my mind. Yeah, there was a QT Marshall student was in a multi-man match scramble, and after that match, Clark Connors, Carl Fredericks, Kevin Knight, Coughlin and Kevin Knight, they all came down and beat the crap out of that student and called out QT in the factory for Windy City, actually the Mutiny taping that's coming up on April 10th.
Nice.
So then after that, we had a Lonestar Shootout, and we'll talk about that in full in a second here, but overall, it's a fun New Japan show. Got a chance to talk to Kevin Kelly before the show, and we're going to work out a date for him to come on Keeping It Strong Style, do a little interview with him. There was a listener that I met named Will after the show. He was really cool. So, Will, it was great meeting you. And also run into our old friend Esteban from the old unofficial New Japan fan club. So saw him, had dinner with him after the show. So overall, we'll do a full review, but overall, that was a pretty fun show.
Yeah, the nice thing was, and this is kind of where our paths diverge, you attended the Impact show following this, where I had the luxury of being able to just watch the televised portion of Lonestar Shootout. That ended literally as the ROH show was like beginning, so I was able to kind of jump over to that pay-per-view, and I did get to see the whole thing. I know you saw it in post as well, but that was kind of cool, being able to see that and then jump to that. And then I did see some of the Impact show. I know you were there live though, so I mean,
yeah. So yeah, Impact multiverse of matches also had a lot of New Japan adjacent guys on there. Show opened up with a Ultimate X that featured Bull Club's Chris Bay. Trey Miguel won that one. There was Speedball Mike Bailey taking on Alex Shelley. That was a great matchup. I love that matchup. We had Ishii defeating Eddie Edwards in a New Japan versus quote unquote Noah match.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. This guy's been wrestling for Noah since 2019.
Yeah, but I guess the whole gimmick is, he turned his back on Impact to join the Honor No More group, and he didn't want to represent Impact on the show, so he chose to represent Noah. He felt like he was more respected when he was in Noah, so that was the whole thing there. We had Josh Alexander and Jonah. They defeated Moose and PCO. Chris Sabin got the win back from Jay White, and then the Good Brothers, they defeated the Briscoes in the main event with some help from Jay White and Chris Bay.
I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I've got to imagine off the top of my head that Jay White, I don't think he's lost out in a singles match outside of New Japan since before his excursion.
Right.
So, like, that's kind of a big deal. I didn't hear a lot of people making noise about it, but that's kind of crazy. He got the win over Sabin. Spoiler, he got the win over Sabin here in St. Pete just a few weeks prior. Then then at the Impact show, does the favor to him, and I'm wondering what if that's going to continue on or what the deal is.
Yeah, well, definitely seems to be a feud going on with Machine Guns and the Jay and Bay connection of Jay White and Chris Bay. So they've been doing tag matches. They've been doing one-on-one matches. So we haven't seen Jay. Actually, we did see Jay versus Shelley, but who knows? Maybe they'll do some other matches between those guys and more tag matches.
Yeah, and then the Briscoes just came off of a match of the year contender in ROH. Head across town, and then they put on another solid match against the Good Brothers on the same pay-per-view, or on the Impact pay-per-view. So kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy that they came back and did that match. I mean, obviously it wasn't as good as the FTR match, but it was a fun main event. And like I mentioned, Bull Club shenanigans with Jay White and Chris Bay helping the Good Brothers get the win. Then there was also a Ring of Honor Super Card of Honor. I did not attend this show. But there was some New Japan presence on that show. We had Minoru Suzuki winning the ROH TV title, defeating the Foundation's Rhett Titus.
Yeah, fairly short match, kind of a nothing match. Suzuki sort of just ate him up, hit him with the gotch very quickly, took the TV title. We have some questions about this. JK Lamas 1013 said, can Minoru Suzuki defend his newly won ROH TV championship back in Japan?
I mean, I'm sure he can. We've seen previously in the ROH New Japan relationship, the TV title was the one title that did kind of come over a lot. You know, Ishii was the TV champ at one point.
I think Tanahashi
was TV champ.
Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I know Kushida was.
Yeah, and Kushida. So we've seen New Japan guys be a TV champ before, but I think they've mainly defended it on ROH TV tapings. But I mean, he could bring it back over. I know Suzuki's going to be in the U.S. for a while, so I mean, he might drop it before he even goes back to Japan. We don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, the other question is, I mean, ROH doesn't even have TV, so what's the point of a TV title if you don't have distribution for a TV show in the first place? So who knows? Maybe Suzuki will just, retire that belt.
Yeah, and I did see somebody saying that this is the first American title that Suzuki's won. Is that
apparently
right?
Yeah?
That's crazy.
I mean, think about it. It's not that crazy. I mean, he spent his whole career in Japan and only started coming over to the States just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I can't even recall very many U.S. titles he ever challenged for. I know he challenged Cody for the ROH world title once, and that's the only thing I can really think of personally.
Yeah.
But
yeah, overall that ROH show was a really fun show. Obviously, the standout match of that night was the tag title match with the Briscoes versus FTR. So
yeah, I loved it. I'm full 5 on it. That's my match of the year right now, and it's a serious contender. Also, I mean, Jonathan Gresham, he unified the disputed ROH titles in a victory over Bandito. I am wondering long term, with New Japan and AEW sort of having some sort of quasi-working relationship, and how ROH will sort of fit in that with them being previous partners, but now they're under a new regime with Tony Khan. But there's still somewhat, a friendly alliance between New Japan and AEW for the time being. What all that means, and I think the thing with Suzuki winning the belt, that is a positive sign. I don't think it's a definitive sign, but like you said, Suzuki's in the States for a while, so maybe he'll be defending that belt in various different places. That's a possibility. We could also, like you said, possibly see him drop it before he leaves, or he might just take the belt with him and then set up more U.S. dates in the future. It is funny. People thought last year when he did that U.S. tour that it was like a goodbye tour, a retirement tour, and he's like, nah, I'm coming back.
It's get that bag tour.
Just to get the bag tour.
Yeah. And he is going to be facing Ishii at Windy City Riot. So who knows? Maybe that ends up being a TV title match.
I did think it was funny how they kept calling it the World TV title as if it's a world title, quote unquote. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's a U.S. world champion. Come on. Rainbow Slim Pig did have a question here too, though.
Go for it.
He said, now that Suzuki is holding the highly prestigious ROH TV title, does this put an end to the rumors of him losing control of Suzuki-gun? Surely a title-holding international superstar is ready for a big push.
Well, clearly he's going to get the big push in Ring of Honor here, but yeah, kind of like we talked about last week. I know people are clamoring for a Taichi-gun or a Saber-gun, but there is just no really signs of that happening. And as long as Suzuki's still going, I don't see him really dropping Suzuki-gun.
Nice. And then I know you had a couple of shows you went to the last, Saturday and Sunday as well.
Yeah, so Saturday morning I went to USA versus the World. Somewhat New Japan related matchups. We had Speedball Mike Bailey. He defeated Davey Richards. That was a really, really good matchup there. And I would love to see, like I said, Speedball back on strong. And hopefully we could see David Richards make a strong debut. I know in the past there's been attitude issues or whatever the case may be, but it seems like he's been having a better...
He's unprofessional.
Yeah, he
beats the fuck out of people, bro. No, but for real though.
Yeah. I know there's been tons of stories about stuff he's done in the ring, but it seems like he's having a better run this time around.
I hope so.
Yeah, so it'll be cool to see him. But yeah, this match with Speedball was really, really good. And also the main event of the show, kind of New Japan adjacent, with somebody who faced Will Osprey, Michael Oku. He defeated Rich Swann. It was a British Cruiserweight title match in the main event, U.S. versus the World. Oku got the win to give the World the win for the show. That was
fuck the United States.
Bro, you would have loved to be at that show. There were several USA chants throughout the show.
I love USA chants.
I know you do.
I don't care. I don't care at all.
But yeah.
SummerSlam 1993. I started many a USA chant that night. Fuck Yokozuna.
Yeah, several USA chants throughout the show, these matchups here. But yeah, Oku and Swan just poured their hearts out. A really good match. Oku cut a really impassioned promo at the end of the show. That was a fun show. And then I went over to Mission Pro, which is Thunder Rosa's promotion in Texas. And she had
Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
That's a female.
Yeah.
This is a New Japan podcast. We only talk about the men's wrestling. I don't see the relevancy why you're bringing that up.
Just talk about my schedule. But there was it's funny, in Mission Pro they have one guy, I think his name's JP Harlow. He's like the man of Mission Pro, and he's the one guy on there. And he tries to stand up for men in that promotion. It was hilarious. Yeah, but he ended up losing to the Alley Cat. But Mission Pro, it was a fun show.
You mean Alley Catch?
Catch, excuse me. Yes, Alley Catch. She's a
serious wrestler.
Yes. And then on Sunday, the unthinkable happened. I attended WrestleMania 38 Night 2, or I should say WrestleMania Sunday.
Yeah, but you've been to WrestleMania before.
Yeah, WrestleMania 33 was the first WrestleMania I attended in Orlando.
Damn, that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah. So this was
so long ago.
Yeah, this was the first WWE main roster show that I've been to since maybe 2018.
We went to a house show. We watched Daniel Bryan wrestle AJ Styles in a steel cage match at Amalie.
Yeah, wasn't that in 2018?
I don't remember. I know it was a holiday show. It was like towards the end of the year, but it might have been 2018, 2019. I don't know.
Yeah. But
it wasn't very good. Ali was getting his push. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been quite a while since I've been to a main roster WWE show. 5 years since I've been to a WrestleMania. And man, it was just so weird. Like, I felt like I was a part of like a social experiment. Like, what happens when you plop a, New Japan pro wrestling fan into a WWE audience? Like, I was not popping, really reacting, clapping, cheering for anything. Everybody around me is like losing their minds, like going crazy. And yeah.
Bro, you weren't into Pat McAfee?
I did thought Pat McAfee, he did pretty good. He was like,
he did not do pretty good. He got beat in minutes by Vince McMahon, by an old elderly senior citizen.
Until then, the Austin Theory match was a good match. And McAfee was super over. You would have thought he was a top babyface in promotion. He was super over. Everybody was into him. But yeah, it was a fine show. A lot of stuff to me was pure comedy. And I just had a good laugh at the way people were reacting to stuff, and just some of the stuff that was happening on the show. But man, it was just a crazy experience.
I loved both nights of WrestleMania. It was some of the funniest shit that I've ever seen. I'm so into it. It was hilarious.
Oh my gosh, dude! When Vince took that stunner, man, I freaking lost it.
Oh my god! But yeah, we could spend all night talking about that. So, any final thoughts on WrestleMania weekend before we move on to, what people really want to hear, the New Japan?
You're right. Overall, really fun weekend. Shout out to the Floyd, host of All Things Elite here on the network. Stayed with him and some of his buddies, JR and Josh Mead. So those guys are cool. Great meeting those guys, hanging out with them. And overall, it was a really fun weekend. I mean, compared to New York and New Orleans, this would come in third for me. But still a fun weekend. Saw a lot of good wrestling, and yeah, a lot of fun. But now let's move on. Before we review some shows here, let's talk about a Wrestler of the Month and Match of the Month for March. So for our Wrestler of the Month, we're going to go with the 2022 New Japan Cup winner, Zack Sabre Jr. This guy's had an incredible month, winning the New Japan Cup, having a ton of great matches with Osprey, Shingo, Naito, even the Doki match. Sabre is just absolutely killing it this month, and he's taking home the crown for the Keepin It Strong Style March Wrestler of the Month.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to deny the excellence that was Zack Sabre, just running through everybody in that tournament, just being a virtuoso of professional wrestling, just showcasing all his abilities, tapping everybody out, having banger after banger, and winning the whole thing. So yeah, shout out to him. The match of the month, unsurprisingly, is a match that involved him, and this was really close. It kind of came down to 3 different matches, but we kind of ended up edging out just barely to name Zack Sabre Jr. versus Will Ospreay, the March match of the month 2022. Incredible match. We gave our full review of this a couple weeks ago, just as it occurred, so you might want to go back to the archives, give that a listen. But if you haven't seen this match, do yourself a favor. It's one of the absolute best matches that have happened anywhere in the world so far this year. So these guys are magic together. They did it once again, and they're our March winners.
Nice. Well, now let's talk about the Lonestar Shootout show that happened during Wrestlemania Weekend as a part of WrestleCon. First part of the show aired live on Fight TV. Show opened up with our boy Ren Narita defeating our good friend Rocky Romero, 7 minutes and 42 seconds.
Yeah, the first thoughts I have on this show, it was really good and really fun, but it kind of felt like it just sort of existed in its own space. It didn't necessarily continue a lot of the storylines that have been established on, let's say, New Japan Strong or anything that's occurring in the domestic product. And then even further beyond that, we've seen them have some bigger events like Resurgence or like Battle in the Valley, which those are bigger pay-per-view level standalone shows as well, but they do tend to tie in some way to what's going on in the greater product, whether that be New Japan of America or just New Japan. This wasn't really like that. This was truly what I would call a WrestleMania Weekend standalone show, Mm-hmm. But all the matches were really good. The show was a breeze. I think for the televised portion, it was 2 hours, and we're talking about 5 matches in 2 hours. Bam, bam, bam. Everything got time, but everything just kind of flowed really, really quickly. And this one in particular, Ren Narita, him and Rocky, they went out there 7 minutes. There wasn't a lot of fluff. They just kind of had themselves a really good, hot opening style match. Rocky did a lot of his junior styling, sliced bread, all that sort of stuff. But towards the tail end there, Ren Narita he caught him with that amazing overhead bridging belly-to-belly suplex that he has. And, if you watch the product and you see him, you kind of know if he catches you with that, you're probably going to be put down for the 1, 2, 3 in most cases.
Yeah, they've kind of done a great job of building that up, even from, Young Lion days in Japan. That was the whole thing. If he couldn't get the bridge, then people would kick out. Right. But when he got that bridge locked in, it was pretty much game time for whoever he was pinning. And so, yeah, big win here for Narita. I know Narita has gotten a lot of big wins since being a part of the LA Dojo and being a part of Strong. And, Rocky, he's one of the, top guys on Strong and involved in a pretty big program right now with Team Filthy and Black Tiger. So pretty cool to see Narita get the win here and to see what that's going to mean for him going forward. Following that, we had a multi-man matchup here. We had Clark Connors, Carl Fredericks, Mascara Dorada, and Yuya Uemura. They defeated the team of Finjuice, Daniel Garcia, and Kevin Knight 10 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah, this one, I don't have too much to say about it. I mean, it was definitely very good. You look at the names that are listed there, and you're talking about almost primarily, face-leaning wrestlers. So um, it wasn't like there was any sort of like deep-seated sort of like factional sort of rivalries going on or anything like that. I didn't even really see any just single strand, this guy standing across from this guy and they have history. Nothing like that. This was like a fun WrestleMania weekend level esque type of 8-man tag, and everybody went out there. They got their stuff in, they hit their spots. A lot of crazy dives, a lot of brawling, a lot of flips. I mean, it was just a really fun, energetic, fast paced 8-man tag, and very entertaining. But that's pretty much all it was.
Yeah, really fun match. I thought Kevin Knight looked really good in the match. He did a lot of lucha spots with Mascara Dorada in the beginning of the match. He looked really good doing them. I think Kevin Knight's improved a lot. He looked really good on this match. There was a spot where Garcia popped me. He did the foot on the chest, King of the World, Jericho post. Come on, baby, pin at one point in the match. That was hilarious. He's part of the Jericho Appreciation Society in AEW. Like you mentioned, it's a really good, fun back and forth match. The only kind of story that I saw here was, Kevin Knight being the, younger classman to Carl Fredericks, who was the, first kind of graduate and leader of the dojo. And Fredericks ended up pinning him with the Manifest Destiny in the end. So it's kind of a similar story that we see with Lions and people who graduate. The younger Lion is trying to prove himself and get the win and take out the elder statesman. And Kevin Knight couldn't get the job done here this night, but there'll be a day where Knight graduates and he will get a win over Fredericks.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, I've kind of had questions too about like with Daniel Garcia, how much more we're going to kind of see of him. And, he was on the last Strong tapings. He's on this show. I mean, I don't know. I hope we continue to be able to see him,
Yeah, I think he's on the Mutiny tapings also. So, yeah, it seems like we'll be seeing more of him. Again, it's always interesting to see how, like, these AW guys kind of play out. Because Garcia hasn't really been a face or a heel. He's kind of been a tweener on Strong. So he's obviously clearly a heel in AW. So
right.
I'm wondering how that's going to affect things. So we're seeing the factory come into Strong now. So there is clearly some storyline continuity and crossover with guys' characters, so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah.
Then after that, we had Minoru Suzuki defeating Killer Cross 9 minutes and 48 seconds. Josh, what do you think of Killer Cross's big New Japan debut here?
Yeah, this was a divisive one because depending on your opinion of Killer Cross and his involvement with the company and maybe your opinion of his prior work, it might have you might be split as to what you saw out there. For me, I thought we saw a guy that had an incredible look, which I think everyone pretty much agrees with most of the time, that he has a great look. I thought he took it very seriously, and came in with a lot of respect. But at the end of the day, he was kind of charismaless. And I feel like that's something that's always sort of been a criticism of him and his work. But even beyond just the charisma aspect of it, I felt like Suzuki was sort of eating him up all throughout the match. And part of it was because I felt like he blew up pretty quickly, Cross, and I felt like he had trouble keeping up with the brawling on the outside and also some of the technical stylings of Minoru Suzuki. And there's also a challenge there where, Minoru Suzuki is not necessarily an imposing figure physically. He's an older guy, but he has this aura of invincibility, this aura of legitimacy to him, and where he can fuck you up. And then you've got a guy that's way bigger than him, that's way more muscular and built and everything like that. And, is your prototypical WWE style wrestler. We don't see a lot of guys like that in New Japan, honestly. And, he was working under the whole time to Suzuki, which does make sense from a standpoint of like Suzuki's the senior, he's the established guy in the company, but it was just kind of a strange dynamic between the two of them. The only time in the match where I felt like Killer Cross kind of regained a modicum of respect was during the strike exchange battles towards the tail end of the match. But even then, like Suzuki wasn't really selling that much for him, and I didn't feel like he was as snug or as like crisp as Suzuki was. You know, I just kind of felt like Suzuki, in a certain sense, in his house, kind of outclassed him. Kept calling him, you know, fucking young boy, and then he just gotched him. And I mean, the match was 9 minutes 48 seconds. It wasn't even that long of a match, really. And could we see Killer Cross come back again? Yeah, but like this didn't feel like that really impactful, sort of impressive type of performance that calls for someone to come back. He sort of just got ate up by Suzuki. I mean, this wasn't similar to, like, for instance, we've seen Jonah recently, or like Moose, those guys in particular, bigger guys that have come in and kind of impressed and have gotten the call back. I didn't see that personally from Killer Cross. Now, again, I heard other people who were very impressed with his outing, and they thought he looked good, and they thought he got a good response, and they think he'll be back. And I'm not even resigned to the idea that he won't be back. He could come back. I mean, I think that there is upside in Killer Cross, um, but from my trained eye, I don't know. I kind of feel like, I think that the guys at New Japan are going to kind of see that match, see how Suzuki treated him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he never steps foot in a New Japan ring again.
Honestly, I have the same thoughts. I would be surprised if he does end up getting another shot. I was not impressed with Cross's outing here. I mean, first, I've never really been a big Killer Cross fan, no matter where he's been. Like you said, also he has the look of a WWE guy, a really good look. But yeah, there was some charisma missing and intensity missing. A guy of that size, he was not laying the stuff in. Suzuki's facing guys smaller than him like Biff Busick, who are really laying those chops in and getting snug with him. And Cross is not doing that. The strikes were light. Suzuki, like you mentioned, was kind of outclassed him on the technical side of things, and it was really just out-wrestled him, was just kind of outclassed him. And Cross didn't feel like he should have been in a ring with Suzuki. I just feel like he was totally out of his element and just really didn't know exactly how to kind of wrestle that New Japan style, wrestle a match with Suzuki. And I don't think he got a great reception with the crowd. I mean, I was there, and the crowd was eating him up. There was a ton of heckling, ton of booing, a ton of Karrion Kross jokes, a ton of control your narrative jokes, TikTok jokes. Like he was getting heckled a lot by the crowd, and yeah.
I did hear the TikTok thing. I didn't hear so much the other things you're mentioning. That didn't come through on the audio on my side, but some of these shows, they don't mic the crowds super well, so it's not always easy to tell what's going on. But yeah, I didn't think he got a good reception.
Yeah, he was getting heckled. Like that was because this felt like a pretty like New Japan crowd, but like this was a one match where like people were not respectful. Like we're gonna heckle the crap out of Cross. And since I was there, I was sending out live tweets. I tweeted out the finish of the match, Suzuki calling him a fucking young boy and hitting him with the gotch, and that tweet blew up like over 1,000 likes, bunch of retweets. There was a ton of wrestlers liking it. That tweet just blew up out of nowhere. And looking at the quote tweets, like everybody was just bagging on Cross, and nobody really likes this dude. And so if they look at the online reaction, you listen to the live reaction, and then his performance in the ring, like those are all signs that I'm like, if I'm New Japan, if I'm Rocky, I'm like, I don't know if I'm giving this guy a call back.
Damn, bro, you ruined his career. The fuck's wrong with you? No, you know what? I will say this. Prior to getting to WWE, I did kind of like Killer Cross. I saw a few of his indie matches, and I thought he was pretty impressive. He's a real guy, like as far as like credentials go, as far as like his training in combat sports. I mean, he's like a legit dude, which kind of made me think that maybe if he mixed it up with Suzuki, they might be able to like do something. I do remember seeing him at Bloodsport in New York against Davey Boy Smith. They had a fucking awesome match. But you know how it is. Guys go to WWE, they get their confidence shaken. You know, you get put on that national stage in ways that you don't want to be, or maybe before you're ready for it. I mean, it could break you. I mean, we've heard like guys like Ric Flair, like getting his confidence shook, on a national stage. So it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, and I think even recently with some of the more recent releases, we hear guys being shaky. I mean, even Bryan Danielson was kind of questioning himself, and John Moxley's like, bro, you're Bryan freaking Danielson. You're like the best wrestler in the world. Like, what's wrong with you? And so, so it'll be interesting to see what happens if Cross gets another shot.
Well, the next match, the semi-main event.
Before the semi-main event, we had a surprise appearance.
Oh, that's right.
From the Deaf Rider, Jon Moxley. The New Japan theme hits, that guitar squeal, and then Mox comes walking down to the ring. Big surprise. Nobody knew he wasn't scheduled to be on the show. So Mox comes out, cuts a promo, says he wasn't leaving Dallas until he got foot in the New Japan ring, and talked about facing Will Osprey at Windy City Riot on the 16th. Said he's going to make an example out of Osprey.
Yeah, this was the one thing that was in universe that felt like it was connected, and I thought it was an okay promo. Like I didn't think that it was your classic Jon Moxley level type promo, but it was fine. I mean, I don't think anyone expected to even see him on the show, so that was kind of cool. The audience got a really big reaction and got to put in a few words and build up the match. And it's coming up in a couple weeks, and that one should be pretty awesome. I mean, both of those guys are on fire right now. So
yeah, I'm really curious to see who's going to go over in that match.
Fuck finish.
But yeah, after that promo, then we go to the semi-main event, USFJ Open Challenge. Switchblade, Jay White defeats Speedball, Mike Bailey at 14 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah, this was probably the match of the night. I said that earlier in the show, but really impressed here with both guys. I mean, the more that we've seen Jay sort of mix it up with different guys from the outside, the more impressive he's looking to me. I mean, he always has been impressive, of course, but I mean, you kind of look at the list of top-notch workers he's had to work with over the past, 5 years. I mean, Tanahashi, Okada, Ibushi, Kenny Omega, Naito, the list goes on and on. I mean, he's had a lot of really great dance partners, but we haven't gotten, since he sort of matured into the type of performer he is now, we haven't gotten a lot of opportunity to see him work guys from the outside. Well, that's sort of changed during this pandemic era. And I mean, tour after tour and big show after big show, we're seeing him wrestle all different shapes, all different sizes, different experience levels. And Jay never gets outshone by any of these guys. He always looks like he belongs, and if maybe even more so than they do. And I thought this kind of felt like a quasi tryout match for Mike Bailey, and I think he delivered in spades. Had some really awesome, high flying stuff. Mike Bailey's kind of like, in theory, the type of wrestler that like a lot of my like creative wrestlers are. Guy that wears kick pads, guy that does like ninja strikes and can do high flying stuff, but also has like a realistic offense that just fucks people up, and diving, flipping knees and shit like that. Like that's kind of like what I wish I was like.
Yeah, Speedball's offense is just awesome. Like you mentioned, those jumping, like spinning double knees that he does. And several times in this weekend, in this match too, it happened where he goes for the jumping double knees on the apron, and the guy moves, and he just smashes his knees on the apron. Looks brutal every time. Did a big Asai moonsault to the outside to Jay, and so a lot of really great back and forth between these guys. Bailey did sell the leg here based off of going for the knee stuff and missing. Jay targeting the leg. He went for the TTO, Tanahashi tap out. Really kind of worked over Bailey's legs, kind of key to his offense there. Bailey came back towards the end, but eventually got hit with the Blade Runner, and Jay picks up the win.
Yeah, absolutely. And hope to see more Speedball. Jade picks up another win. He's just on a roll as far as like the kayfabe goes, as just being a guy that's mopping up during these open challenge matches. So
Yeah, and I think even in a non-kayfabe, look at the last few challenges now. We had Jay Lethal, Swerve, and now it's Mike Bailey. Like, all three of these have been really, really good matches.
yeah, even I wasn't as high on it, but the Christopher Daniels match, people like that a lot too.
Yeah, so yeah, these USFJ matches have been really fun. But yeah, Speedball did awesome here. I really want to see him be brought back on the Strong.
And plus, too, I mean, going back to it, you combine that with the work he's doing outside in Impact, and the Alex Shelley match that you recommended, the match with Eric Young. I mean, yeah, he's on fire. But that takes us to the main event, and where we saw Tomohiro Ishii. He defeated the returning Chris Dickinson, 16 minutes, 11 seconds, Brainbuster.
Brainbuster. This was a really good match that we talked about earlier. Ishii not kind of giving the full 100% Ishii level here. I mean, to me, this was a 3.75. But really, still a really good matchup, really hard hitting. The kind of the Ishii formula, eating big strikes, the tackle exchanges, strike exchanges, firing up at points in the match, and no selling and bringing it to Dickinson. And also, Dickinson's wrestling his heart out, trying to have a good weekend, and also trying to impress. And yeah, I thought it was a really good match. I do think they had a hard time kind of following the Jay White Speedball match, because the crowd was really into the Switchblade Speedball match, and that match was awesome. And then to follow up with the Ishii match, I mean, the crowd was pretty tired from the Speedball match, and again, really good matchup, but I think they had a hard time following that match just with the crowd, and with Ishii not kind of giving the full go, brought the match down a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. But of the three matches I saw him in this weekend, I think this is the match I liked best with Ishii.
Yeah.
Looking on Cage Match, the Eddie Edwards match from Impact might be rated a little higher. I think I disagree with that personally. I was not as big of a fan of that. But also, then again, I'm a really big Chris Dickinson fan, so that might be part of it. But, and then also you can't forget to take into account that Dickinson is still coming off of a layoff where it was expected that he'd be out much longer than he ended up being out. I think for the type of injury he had, they were saying it was going to be like 9 months, 12, to a year, something like that. He came back in 6 months. So, hopefully he's in tip-top shape and totally ready to go, and everything's good. I didn't see any signs of issues or anything like that personally. But this was a match where I was slightly disappointed, just because these are two of my top favorite guys, and we haven't gotten to see Chris Dickinson wrestle too many New Japan proper, individuals just yet. And this kind of felt like the coming out party, and I was hoping it would be a little more than this. But I mean, if you think about it, they gave him Suzuki, and now they've given him Ishii. The company clearly sees something in him. I hope that's a sign of things to come for Chris,
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to be on a short list of guys when it's time to bring people over from Strong. I definitely see him being one of the guys that's top of that list.
Yeah, but that pretty much does it for the pay-per-view portion of the show. Now, you were there for the Strong exclusive matches. Before we get to that, we did have a question, or actually a comment, from Dark Soldier. He said, I watched my first full NJPW Strong show with Lonestar Shootout, and that Ishii Dickinson match was excellent. That Chris Dickinson fellow is pretty darn good. Jay White and Mike Bailey was also good, but poor Mike Bailey's knees. So, just adding a little bit of color to our commentary here,
Yeah. Then for the Strong exclusive matches, I won't give away the results here, but we had Chris Bay and Hicaleo taking on Straight Arc Army of Bateman and Barrett Brown. I will say they are continuing the, Bullet Club storyline that's happening with Hicaleo. They did release that video on New Japan's Twitter, so that's not a spoiler. That there's Hicaleo and Jay White will be facing off on Mutiny April 10th, And Hicaleo says he's part of Bullet Club, but doesn't want it too sweet. Doesn't want to follow Jay White. So there's some issues here between Hicaleo and Chris Bay. Then we had a Team Filthy of Tom Lawler, Royce Isaac, and JR Kratos. They took on Fred Rosser, Alex Coughlin, and the DKC. They continued the Rosser wanting to challenge Tom Lawler storyline here. And then the main event of this taping was Jonah versus Blake Christian. Not really a story there, but good matchup there. So that'll be coming up soon on Strong.
Well, we'll talk about this week's Strong taping here shortly. But, one of the things on that, there is going to be a 6-man tag at the Windy City Riot. And it involves Jonah and his team against Finn Juice and a mystery partner. And when I saw this match, you and I haven't talked, so I don't know what's happening. But I was like, could Blake Christian somehow get factored in as being the guy that teams with Finn Juice? I feel like that could be a fit depending on what happened in this match. Maybe I'm just over speculating because I don't know who Finn Juice is teaming with. So
yeah, I mean, that's a good point out there. I didn't even think about Blake potentially being the third guy. But I mean, as of right now,
the Hogan to their outsiders, if you will.
As of right now, that's probably the top candidate based off of what's happening on Strong. But I guess we'll see what happens there.
Nice. Well, this past Monday, jumping over to New Japan Domestic, we had Hyper Battle. There was a Korakuen Hall show on Monday morning. This was essentially a preview Road to style level show in Korakuen Hall, building up to this coming Saturday's major Ryogoku Hyper Battle show. So we had 7 matches. We're going to go through quick review. I mean, I don't think that there were, in fact, not even think there were no matches that really deserve like a full breakdown. But there was a lot of story building things that were occurring during this show, a lot of like segments. Unfortunately, there was no English commentary. Now, Kevin Kelly did do an English commentary, I believe, based off his Twitter. He's doing it today, sometime today. It might even have happened by the time we're recording this, but a couple of hours ago, I looked on New Japan World. It still wasn't uploaded, so that might be uploading like, say, tomorrow or something like that. So if you're listening, you want to watch that show with English commentary, that might be beneficial because there were things happening on the show that now, like for just the wrestling, I don't need English commentary, but sometimes when there's angles happening, it's really good to have a voice who can kind of give you some background, especially if they're clued into what's happening, even if they don't speak the language. But there are a few angles here where I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, so let's run through these results here. So show opened up. We had the Bullet Club team of Balak Fale, ELP, and Taiji defeated 6 or 9, and Oiwa, 9 minutes 55 seconds. ELP hitting the CR2 on Oiwa. Also, we're setting up here the junior tag title match to come on Saturday with Bullet Club Junior Tag Team and 6 or 9. Then we had the Sugun team of Doki and Kanemaru. They defeated the LIJ team of Bushi and Shingo with Kanemaru hitting his touch out maneuver on Bushi. And kind of surprising here with Shingo being in the match that Doki and Kanemaru got the win here.
I mean, it's Bushi.
Then after that, we had the Bull Club team of Balak Fale and Chase Owens. They defeated the team of Tanahashi and Jado when Chase hit Jado with a C-trigger. One big angle here at the beginning of the match, Jado came out wearing a Lion Mark shirt, and the Japanese commentary popped like crazy, like, oh, Lion Mark, oh! So kind of a big deal that Jado is, wearing a Lion Mark. He's representing Hantai, the home army, no longer, wearing the black, nor wearing any kind of Bull Club kind of merch here.
There was also, before the match, there was some sort of promo going on with Gedo, and my interpretation of it, because if you notice, Balak Fale was in the opener, and then he was in this match, and I think probably what was happening was Gedo was supposed to be in the match, and then he kind of promo finagling his way out of having to be in the match because he doesn't want to face Jado and face that comeuppance, that ass whooping,
right?
That's on the horizon. So somehow he was able to get the big man Fale in instead of that. But again, it wasn't totally clear because we didn't have commentary, and it also wasn't on the I went and listened to the comments with the translations, and they didn't show the translation for this segment.
Yeah, I think Gato was originally scheduled in this match, and like you said, it's him. Yeah, subbing in Bad Luck Fale here. And then after the match, after Bull Club won, they were beating down Tanahashi and Jado, and then God came out and made a save, and the Bull Club guys were like, "Hey, you guys are on the wrong side. You can still come back with us." And then Gato telling Jado, "You can't catch me," and so kind of continuing that story there.
One thing, do you like the C trigger? Because I don't think I do.
I mean, I'm always gonna like somebody throwing their knee in somebody's face, and
I do too, but I like it when it's done well. And his is like, it looks so soft to me that I don't believe it as a finisher, to be honest with you.
I think he does it easy on Jado, because I feel like he's done it to other people and it's looked good.
Maybe. I feel like I see him throw it weak a lot of the time too. There is a trend in New Japan right now, if you think about it. ELP has the sudden impact. That's excuse me, kind of a new impact strike finish. Osprey introducing like the hidden blade. Now we got Chase Owens doing the C trigger. Recently Taichi started throwing that sumo elbow strike, and I feel like there's been a few others where like I wonder what that is, if that's like an internal thing where they're telling them to start doing that, or if people are just watching other guys like, oh shit, Osprey's got this elbow, I better come up with something. Like, now everybody's like got a finishing strike in the company or some shit.
Yeah, but it's cool though. I'm digging it.
I'm fine with it. I like guys to fuck each other up with strikes, but I don't know if I like that C strike.
Yeah. We had a question here from Les Commission 7252. He says, when Jay turns on Gato, will we possibly see Jado take back Gato and make him main unit?
I guess I'm so uninvested in Gato and Jado and on any level that I don't really care. They're old as hell.
Well, what do you think about the possibility of Jay turning on Gato?
Yeah, I'm also not invested in Bullet Club as a whole because they're old as hell too. Like that faction is old, bro.
Yeah, I mean, Jay did say there are more cuts to come. I mean, it could be some kind of a swerve. Gato still ends up getting kicked out, but I don't know. I think he's probably going to stick with Jay for a while.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Then the fourth match we had House of Torture, Dick Togo and Sho defeating Suzuki and Desperado and Taka Michinoku, building up the junior title match here. Sho, he had stole one of Despy's mask. So yeah, just continuing that build there.
Yeah, not a fan of ex Kaientai members fighting one another. Not about that.
They should be on the same side.
Yeah. Also, speaking of old, I mean, Taka, Dick Togo, old.
Old's on top.
Yeah, I guess so.
After that, we had United Empire team of Aaron Hanary, Great Okan, Jeff Cobb, and Will Osprey defeating the Chaos team of Hiroki Goto, Yo Yoshihashi, and Togi Makabe, building up the upcoming Bishamon United Empire title match on Saturday's show.
We have the deal with Great Okan in the news, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk about it here in a bit, but he did receive a commendation for act of heroism, and so he kind of brought out that official plaqued commendation with him, and was really playing that up, prior to the match and after the match. But the big thing was, Bishamon, they both have their own individual staffs, and those staffs, came into play during the match, and so post-match, Okan is cutting a promo, and Chaos team is all beat down, and all the United Empire members are sort of like holding down Bishamon, and they got the staffs, and right when it looked like they're gonna like fuck up Bishamon, all the young lions like run in and try to like break everything up and like make the save, and they get their asses handed to them for those efforts, but it creates the opening for Yoshihashi and Goto to get their staffs back. They start, laying everybody out, getting kind of clearing the ring. So, just kind of building up more intrigue for the upcoming Bishamon versus United Empire tag match.
Yeah, and also too, at some point on this show, I can't remember where exactly it was, but they did air the promo video of Osprey announcing his protege is coming to the junior division, which we are all assuming is going to be Francisco Akira. I
think it really is him now, even more because the name, I think it's Fuchari or something like that. That's whatever the name is, and maybe I'm saying the wrong name, but I think that's what it is. It means to burn in Italian, and it's an Italian word. And Francesco Akira is Italian, and I think like his nickname previously was like the Fireball Kid or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of pretty. And then the idea that they're going to burn down the entire division, and there is when I looked up that word, God, I hope that's his name. Fuchari? Is that what it was?
It wasn't like Bisakari or something like that. Again with a B.
Okay, that's Buchari, I believe. I don't know. It's something like that. It's pronounced like Italian, not the way that like English speakers would pronounce it.
Gotcha.
But I looked up that word and like it has like a double meaning. Like it's not just to burn, but it means like to purify, or like when someone like has like an injury, like to cauterize it, So like basically like to cleanse, something like when someone has surgery or something like that. So, I think the idea is he's supposed to come in and, destroy the junior division, which like, hey, I'm all for a new guy coming in and just like wrecking house. I don't care.
Yeah, it should be fun.
There's not a single junior that like I'm like currently attached to other than Doki.
Right.
I think he should come in and fuck everybody up, and then Doki becomes the savior of the junior division, and they have like a career rivalry.
I mean, I'd be down for that.
That's what I would book if I had the book, and I'm pretty sure that would draw money because I'm a smart man. So
if I had the book, Doki's winning Super Juniors this year.
Not this year, but like. I think he goes to the finals this year and then loses in a heartbreaker. Next year's the year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Then after that, we had the LIJ team of Hiromu and Naito defeating Evil and Neutral Element in 45 seconds. Naito hitting a roll-up on Yujiro. So once again, it's still not using this Dino, and building up here the never title match between Hiromu and Evil. A lot of shenanigans after the match with Hiromu and Naito, because Hiromu once again stole the never title, and then both of them were trying to get each other to sit down in chairs, and they were doing the whole thing where like Naito pulls a chair away from Hiromu when he sits down, and so they're having some fun with each other. Post-match, like they normally do, how they always kind of pick on each other. But yeah, Hiromu has a lot of momentum going into this never title match.
Yeah, maybe too much momentum. Like it's making me nervous.
Yeah.
He's not going to win.
Yeah, because Evil's kind of been on the downside of a lot of the stuff here with Hiromu. So if you kind of follow that normal, momentum booking pattern, usually the guy who's a champion who's kind of coming in with the least momentum usually ends up getting the win to kind of even things out. So might not be looking good for the ticking time bomb come Saturday.
Yeah.
And then the main event here, Dangerous Tekkers, Taichi, and Zack Sabre Jr. They defeated the Chaos team of Kazuchika Okada and Toru Yano, 19 minutes and 26 seconds. Also building up here the KOPW, Taichi and Yano, and the title match with Sabre and Okada. Towards the end of this match, the stipulation for Taichi and Yano's the sumo match. So towards the end of this match, Taichi had the Young Lions and referees take the ropes down, pull the ropes apart, and we had a little preview of the sumo match as Yano and Taichi were trying to throw each other out of bounds, like they'll have to do on Saturday. So a little preview of that, but then eventually Sabre got back in there with Yano and got him to tap out what he calls the Clarky Cat, and got the win for Dangerous Tekkers.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, this was, like a preview match, and, looking at it on paper, you understand that it's building both the KOPW match as well as the IWGP World Title match. but I sort of thought that it would kind of focus more on the world title match between Okada and Sabre, and they opened and they had a couple interactions, but like almost the whole entirety of the match was designed for comedy and designed to really build anticipation for Yano and Taichi, which like I'm not gonna lie, I am kind of intrigued by the idea of them having a sumo match. I mean, I think the last time I saw like a proper sumo match in wrestling was like WrestleMania 20 when Big Show wrestled Akabono,
Oh yeah.
which wasn't great. Oh, you know why I think I'm a mark for this sort of shit? Back in the early days of Monday Night Raw, when Earthquake wrestled Yokozuna in a sumo match on Raw, as a kid, I thought that was one of the greatest things that ever happened in the history of wrestling. So I might just be like a mark for maybe I should get into sumo. Like I don't know, but yeah, I'm like I want them to go out there on Saturday with the whole like fucking like the sumo gis or whatever their whatever the get up is that they wear. I want them to be throwing the fucking salt. I want there to be like a dirt mound and everything.
Yeah.
I hope that that's what they do, but this match was fine. It was a lot of shenanigans and kind of, it was funny. It was fine for what it was. And then, of a post match, there was a pretty good promo from Zack Sabre Jr. Just kind of, letting Okada know that even though this situation might mirror what happened between them 4 years ago, this is a very different guy showing up this time in very different circumstances.
Yeah, he said that, you're the same Okada. You haven't changed. I'm not the same Zack Sabre Jr. I've grown. I've gotten better. So I'm going to beat you this time around.
Yeah. And so fun little show. Nothing really stand out. I wouldn't even recommend any of these matches. You could probably honestly even just skip the show unless you're like a completist. But the one thing that was nice, again, we've said it before, and it's becoming more and more so the case, Korakuen Hall with more people in the attendance, it just makes the show more enjoyable. I'm ready for them to be able to maybe vocalize. But aside from that, the actual atmosphere is not like soul killing. So
yeah.
Underdog Fantasy is the fastest growing fantasy app and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Just jump on UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft your team, and that's it. And if drafts aren't your thing, they also have a pick'em game where you can win 20 times your money in a single night. Use promo code RADIO, and Underdog will double your first deposit when you sign up with up to $100 in bonus cash. Deposit $100, get $100 free. That's promo code RADIO. Terms and conditions apply.
Now let's preview this coming up Saturday's Hyper Battle show in Sumo Hall. So the show will open up with Guerrillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga Tangaloa teaming up with Tanahashi and Jado to take on the Bullet Club team of Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, Gato, and Yujiro Takahashi. We've pretty much seen GOD, Tanahashi, and Jado on the losing end of all the multi-man matches building up to this matchup here. Josh, do you think we're going to see another L here, or will GOD, Tanahashi, and Jado finally get some comeuppance and get a win here?
Yeah, I think that God and Hantai have kind of taken a lot of losses in this feud, and I'm not really sure where it's leading, but I think at least for this show, I don't know, it just kind of makes sense to me that give them a happy moment for whatever it's going to be. I think that the Hantai crew is going to finally get the big win over Bull Club, and maybe post-match or whatever, wherever they're going with the story, that will probably play out to some extent, and we can kind of continue on from there. But at least for the time being, I think that Hantai probably gets the win.
Yeah, I'll go with that. They definitely need to get a win in this rivalry here. They've been getting outsmarted and outworked here by the Bullet Club team. I could see maybe even Tanahashi offering God Lion Mark shirts at the end of this match, since Jado's already wearing one, so we could see something along those lines to further their face turn here. Did have a question?
That's not a bad prediction at all.
I did have a question here from Moses Magnum. He says, question for the young boy, since he had...
Hold on. I just want to say, I already read this question, and we will answer it, and I do appreciate the question. But let's not pretend that I'm the only person that has ever stepped into a wrestling ring on this podcast, okay? I might have done some formal training, but John Juris is a real ass wrestler, and he's on this show as well. So I think we're both qualified to answer this question.
Well, thank you. I'll say I don't have as much training as you do, but
I mean, yes, I would stretch you, but
Moses Magnum says, question for the young boy since he has wrestling training. What do you think of Tangaloa's shoes? I've noticed that he often slips in them. If you remember, he almost killed Shingo last year, attempting a power slam from the second rope. I've noticed that without exception, everyone else in NJPW wears wrestling shoes. Are his shoes a liability? Sorry for the off-topic question, but I've been meaning to ask this, and I never remember to send the question in time when Tonga is wrestling.
So I've noticed his shoes too, and to be honest with you, maybe I'm off base here. Jeremy's probably the better, more qualified person to answer this than I am. Aren't Tangaloa's shoes just wrestling shoes?
Yeah, they look like red Nike wrestling shoes.
Yeah, I think they're just red Nike wrestling shoes. Now, I know that this might trip you up here, but believe it or not, the kind of shoes he's wearing is probably what most of the roster actually is wearing, but you don't realize it because they're wearing kick pads over them. And so you think they're boots, but they're not boots. Most of the roster that wears kick pads are actually just wearing some form of wrestling shoe. And I think that's what Tangaloa is wearing. Now, his do tend to, they're a little more stylish. I mean, if I had really shiny, stylish wrestling kicks like that, I wouldn't put a kick pad over them. Plus, they flare out. But I don't think I've ever seen those shoes and thought to myself, I think what the issue is, I think people see those and they think he's wearing like sneakers, and he's not wearing sneakers. Now, here's the thing, too. You can wear sneakers and wrestle. Ultimately, in a wrestling ring, the only thing that is really imperative is that they are flat-soled shoes, meaning like if you look under most sneakers, there's going to be grooves and things like that. And there's two reasons why that's an issue. Number one, if you've ever lifted like heavy weights, they'll tell you to like wear like flat-soled shoes because like you can get a better base. That's why like you'll see a lot of guys that are like deadlifting and stuff. They'll even wear like Chucks, because those are like flat. So that's part of it. But the main reason is because if you have shoes that have grooves in them, they'll actually cause tears in the apron. That you get a pebble stuck in there, or a piece of plastic, anything, and then you're running, and then you tear the apron. You don't want to be the guy that fucking tore the apron and cost the company money. So you want to make sure you're wearing flat-soled shoes. Like when I was wrestling, I don't wear wrestling shoes. I would like to, but my feet are pretty wide. And so I actually wear boxing shoes because boxing shoes are also flat-soled as well. But that's the main thing. They just have to be flat-soled. John Cena, who, no matter what your opinion of the guy is, he wears like Nikes as well. But I'm pretty sure he wears like flat-soled Nikes, which a few of the guys I wrestle with, they wear the same thing. So
yeah, and so I don't think his mishaps are due to the shoes. I just think it's just due to just him.
Yeah, he might just be like off balance or something.
Yeah. But moving on here to the next match on Hyper Battle on Saturday, we have the LIJ team of Shingo and Naito taking on the United Empire team of Aaron Hanary and Will Osprey.
Yeah, interesting match here. I guess the question I have is like, what is the point of this match? With Will, he kind of has like a lot of irons and different fires. I mean, he's got the Red Pro belt, so he's got obligations and dates over in the UK. He's got this upcoming match here the following week in the States with John Moxley. And then coming off the New Japan Cup, they've got him in a match here with Shingo and Naito. Now, that might just be a match that has little meaning. It could just be like a high-profile, just throwaway tag match. But I am wondering, it's interesting because like him and Shingo, long storied rivalry, and they were on track to fight each other in this New Japan Cup, and it ultimately didn't end up happening. But then you got Osprey and Naito, who have never wrestled one another, and that's kind of like a really protected match. And I think it's interesting that they're on the opposite side of one another. Again, this could be just, hey, you guys are here, we need you on the card. Here's a match. But I am wondering if this is leading somewhere for Osprey and one of those two guys. Aaron Hanary also happens to be there. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the guy taking the fall either way. So I'm predicting an LIJ win, but I'm more intrigued about the Osprey interaction, whatever that may be.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah, Hanari's either eating a Last of the Dragon or a roll up here from Naito.
Yeah, not a Destino. He's gonna get schoolboyed for the win.
Yeah, but like you, I'm really interested to see if this goes somewhere, or like you mentioned, it's just kind of you guys are on tour. We need some drawing power to throw us together. But I do think there's some directions you could go with Osprey and either of these guys. I mean, the rumor for the May show is Naito and Okada, so maybe you do Osprey and Shingo on that show on the semi-main undercard, something like that. So.
Right, but you also have to take into consideration. We'll talk about the main event, but like, are there alternate outcomes if hypothetically Zach were to win? Zach wins. That throws all the preconceived notions about a Naito Okada match, out the window. Maybe that could still happen, but then maybe Will Ospreay plays into that picture in a particular way based off of the match he had with Zach during the New Japan Cup too. So we can't not take everything into consideration there.
Yeah. So after that, we have the first title match of the evening. The IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles will be on the line as 6 or 9, Master Wato and Ryusuke Taguchi will defend against Bull Club's cutest tag team, El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, this is kind of a pick'em because it's irrelevant. I could easily see Bull Club's cutest tag team getting those belts back. The whole gimmick was to put it on 6 or 9. So, Taguchi could be the 69th IWGP Junior Tag Team Champion. He's already done that. They hot potato those titles around anyways. Could they retain? Sure. What are they going to do after that? I don't know. Would it be maybe more interesting if they just gave it to Bull Club again? Yeah, probably. So I don't know. I think I'm just going to predict that. I think the Bull Club's probably going to get the belts back.
Yeah, I think the hard thing right now is we just don't have a ton of junior tag teams lined up. I mean, if 6 or 9 wins, who's next? Are you going to do what, Despy and Kanemaru? Are you going to put Flying Tiger back together? Like, we just don't have a lot of options here for these guys. So,
but here's the thing, Jeremy. Like, what you're saying right now is something that you could carbon copy and paste, and it doesn't matter what episode of this show we were doing. Anytime that these titles were on the line in the last 4 to 5 years, you could say the exact same sentence and just change the name of. You could literally be like, I mean, they don't really have much of a division outside of the Bucks, and after that, I mean, what are you gonna do? I don't know. I guess you could give it to Roppongi 3K again. Like, we're having the same conversations year after year after year after year. Like, they don't have a junior division, so
right,
that's it. They don't have one.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with ELP and Taiji getting the win here. So then 6 or 9 can get a rematch. Do a program there. ELP,
and then they get the belt back, and then the other team gets a rematch, and then they get the belt back, and then they get a rematch, and it just never ends.
And then they do a 3-way.
Yeah, for other generations, they had the Midnights and the Fantastics, or they had the Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation. For us, we got Bull Club's tag team, or team 6 or 9. Okay.
So ELP did have a funny backstage promo. He's like, everybody talked about my sudden death being loaded, but he's like, Taguchi's ass is loaded. Somebody needs to check that.
I saw one of his backstage promos on the most recent show, and ELP was like, shout out to Logan Paul. Okay. Didn't watch your match, bud, but you looked really cool in the pictures that I saw of you, and I was very impressed. He was like, so Logan Paul is my favorite celebrity wrestler from now on. Just letting everybody know. Keep doing what you do, bud.
So next on the card, we'll have the provisional KOPW title match, the sumo match. between the current provisional champion Toru Yano defending against Taichi.
This is an interesting one because Taichi's sort of basing his most recent offense and some of his like growth and persona as a character off of his sumo heritage roots, right? And that's kind of where this match is coming from. Now, again, as I said earlier in the show, I hope they go full gimmick with it, just like they did with the match between Yano and Okan earlier last year. Or yeah, was that this year or last year?
I think that was last year.
Okay, yeah, they did the amateur wrestling rules match, and they came out, in the full get up and everything, and did like an actual amateur wrestling match. I hope they do something similar to that here with the sumo match. I hope it's just not them having a sumo rules match. I hope they go full gimmick with it. At the same time, it's difficult because I think Taichi could win this. Again, because like I said, he's kind of leaning into that sumo heritage sort of stuff. But then if he does win it, where does he go with it from there is the real question.
Right.
I think he kind of finds himself in a similar position to where Minoru Suzuki was this past year when he held it, which is like, all right, what do I do with this besides defend it back against Yano? And I guess that's kind of the conundrum for any challenger here is like, you got to do one of two things. You either win it and go in a different direction and move Yano away from it, or it just stays the, proliferating Yano title forever, and you just wind up in a rematch with him where you lose it back. I also do wonder, like, if they do go full gimmick, if that's going to be something that kind of quasi hurts Taichi, because he's kind of instituting this sumo stuff with the palm strikes and the sumo throws as being like a pretty serious part of his character. And now they're doing a gimmick match out of it. So I don't know. I got some mixed feelings there. I think it'll probably be Yano. I think Yano will be like sort of outmatched and he'll find a way to cheat. I don't know. Maybe he'll like find a funny way to like throw some salt in, Taichi's eyes or some shit like that. Who knows? But I wouldn't be surprised if Taichi actually got the win because this seems to be a rule set that favors him.
Right. I could see based off of that Taichi winning, but I think I'm going with Yano here. Similar like we saw in the amateur wrestling match. I do know Yano has amateur wrestling background, but I feel like people were more thinking Okan would win that match. And kind of the story of that amateur match was like Okan was ahead, and then Yano came back from behind. So I could see something similar where maybe Taichi's controlling majority of the match using the sumo skills, and then Yano's able to kind of bust out maybe an amateur, like a fireman or something like that towards the edge and use Taichi's momentum to get Taichi out of bounds, and it's a kind of an upset win.
Yeah, they kind of teased that during the preview match where he was sort of utilizing some amateur folk style moves. And I was like, do they do that in sumo? Because I don't watch enough sumo. All the sumo, I remember like watching sumo on ESPN too, like back in the day. There's just guys grabbing each other's belts and like trying to lift each other and maybe doing palm strikes. But I mean, are there rules where you could like drop down for like a fireman's if you really wanted? Is that? I wonder, like, if that's allowed. I don't know the sport.
I don't know. I've never watched a full sumo match, and who knows? Because maybe those guys are too big to try and shoot a fireman that they don't try.
I hope he goes for like a Jack Briscoe style arm drag and just like throws his ass.
So yeah, I think we're both going Yano here. But
I am kind of excited for this. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't usually like lean too much into the shenanigans and the Yanoism, but like, I don't know. They got me with this sumo shit. I don't know. I like sumo matches. I don't know.
Yeah, it should be fun. So then after that, we'll have the
stupendous.
The most stupendous KOPW match ever.
The most stupendous sumo wrestling match in New Japan Pro Wrestling history.
So after that, we'll have the never open weight title on the line. The Evil defends against Hiromu Takahashi.
Okay, so here's one where I think a lot of people want Hiromu to win the title and kind of step into that role, that in between role that we've seen certain individuals step into in the past when they've won this title. Whether that was like Kota Ibushi or like Will Osprey and different people like that. But I got to tell you, I got the feeling based off of the discussion we had earlier that like Hiromu's just kind of taken too much in this feud. I'd be very surprised if he actually gets the win over Evil back to back, especially with how much momentum he actually has coming in the match. I think they built up Hiromu so strong because they intend to have him lose to Evil here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like they built Hiromu up to make him a credible challenger and to give you that hope that, all right, he beat him once, that he could do it again. Now, everybody else, I would love for Hiromu to win. That's who I want to win. But I definitely do think they are going to have Evil retain. Obviously, he's still kind of in the mix with all the Bull Club stuff that's happening right now. And I think it's just something different for Hiromu to do since he's not going to be challenging for the junior title. Want to get him on the card and kind of an interesting program here. The match should be good. I mean, Hiromu seems to be one of those guys who kind of cracks the code on having good Evil matches. So as long as they kind of follow that same pattern and don't crank up the Togoism, I think this could be an entertaining match. But yeah, expecting Evil to retain.
Now that's an interesting thing you said there, that you expect this match to be good. And I think it could be, but I don't have any kind of real expectations of good matches from Evil. I'd rather just have low expectations and then be surprised when he exceeds those very low expectations. But we're 5 matches deep here, and we've kind of given our thoughts, we've given our analysis and our predictions, but we haven't really talked about any of these matches being good. And it's kind of interesting and funny because you hear a lot of New Japan fans being like, oh, the show is so stacked because we've been deprived of shows that are just from top to bottom full of meaningful title matches and programs. And that is kind of what you're getting here. But at the same time, we're 5 matches deep. And this is the first time that either of us has said, like, this should be good. And I don't even really totally agree with you that this will, in fact, be a good match, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think that they've kind of fooled some of the fan base because they're giving us something that we used to get on the regular. And people are acting like it's really special. And it is cool, but like, and I'm glad that we're doing it. But like, this is still like a C-level pay-per-view level.
Right, yeah. I have a question here from Les Commission 7252. For Hiromu challenging for the never openweight title, will that encourage other junior heavyweights to start challenging for the belt, or don't they have the right challengers in the division to challenge for it?
It's one of those things. It's one of those endless conversations that we could go on and on about. It's been years where we've been ranting on this show that it's an open weight title. Why don't more juniors, get opportunities for it? It's been few and far between in the history of that title's existence that it's happened. And it's happening here. And I think we're glad that it's happening, but it's so rare. Same thing as like what we were talking about, like with the issues with the junior tag division, and I hate for this episode to be one where I'm just pointing out the issues in New Japan, but it's hard to not talk about it when it's right there in front of you. Like, why haven't we had more juniors challenge for these titles? And I think that we should get more of that. I like that. I think the last guy I can remember challenging those as a junior was like probably Show against
Shingo,
like quite a while ago.
Right.
2 years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely seems like for them, it has to be the right guy. Obviously, previously the Never title was more of that, just kind of the strong style title, and so a guy like Show fit that match style perfectly. So he's a guy we saw kind of mix it up and get Never title matches. You look at guys like Will Osprey and Shingo previously, guys who were more stars who kind of got shots there. And so now we're seeing that again with Hiromu, who he doesn't really wrestle the strong style, but he is a star in that junior division. He's a star overall, and so he's kind of probably a big enough name in their minds to be challenging for a never title. So it seems to be either the guy has to fit the style or they have to be a star to get a never title shot, even though it is just a never title.
Well, the other good news too is, originally when they unified the top two belts in this company and kind of created a power vacuum for, a men's singles title to sort of fill that icy void, it felt like never was going to be the belt that fit that role. And then as time has gone on, it sort of feels like the U.S. title's sort of more in that mold. And I think that's probably a good thing for this title, because with it being an open weight title, if they did want to do more of this, that's sort of on the table. If this belt were still considered like the number 2 headlining belt in the company, you could rest assured that we probably wouldn't be seeing very many like juniors challenge for that title, Hiromu included. So
right. So who you going with? Evil retaining?
Yeah, I said that from the outset. I just think they've given so much to Hiromu that I'd be very surprised if he were to also win here in this spot. But then again, New Japan's not. We always think we know everything that's going to happen. I think we do pretty well when it comes to predictions, but we're not perfect. And they could just be establishing the guy on a level that we're not expecting. I mean, we've talked about it before. There's not a lot left for him to do in the junior division. So if he does lose here, what's next for him? Well, obviously, there's a Super Juniors just around the corner, so that might be part of it. But who knows? Maybe he wins this belt, and maybe he's either going into Super Juniors as never champion, or maybe he's out of Super Juniors. Although, now that I'm bringing up Super Juniors and it's only like a month away, and I'm thinking about that reality that they probably need him to sort of headline that tour too, that probably leads me to also think they're not putting this never belt on the guy.
Yeah.
So I feel even more resolved that he's not winning.
I think everything's gonna be everything is evil, unfortunately. So moving on for the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Title match.
I will tell you this though, he's gonna hit everything is evil on Evil and have him put away, and then they're gonna like pull the ref out.
Oh yeah. But yeah, tag title match: Bishamon, Goto, and Yoshihashi defending against the United Empire team of Great Okan and Jeff Cobb.
I feel pretty confident that we are getting new IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions here. The other title changes that we might have predicted, if any, I feel like those are pretty iffy, but I feel very strong that this title's changing. And then again, they don't have to. They've done a good job building up the show in a way where they can go either way in almost all these situations. But this is just the one where it's like they really have built this team up for quite a long time and given them so many credible wins. And there really hasn't been, outside of Will Osprey, there hasn't been any sort of major gold achievements coming out of United Empire. And I think the time is now to sort of solidify some of those guys and make them players in the company in that sense. So I think it just makes the most sense. Like, Goto and Yoshihashi, they've had good runs in the past, in the Never division, and then also in this IWGP Heavyweight division. It's probably time for them to pass that over to United Empire.
I agree. I think we're also going to see new champs with Cobb and Okan. I feel like Bishamon have had the tag team titles for quite some time now. I think it's time for Okan and Cobb to both get their first titles. I guess Cobb's been the Never champion, but I feel like it's been a while since he had a title, and this will be Okan's first title. So I feel like it's the time for Okan to get his first title. It'll be Jeff Cobb's first tag title run. So I think that'd be great for them. And also, both of those guys are going to be in Chicago for Windy City Riot and on the Mutiny Tour. So you could have them win here and defend the tag titles on the Windy City Riot pay-per-view show.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
So then moving on to the semi-main event, we'll have the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title on the line. The champion, El Desperado, will defend against Sho.
Yeah, this is a tough one. they really have put a lot of promotion and sort of just push behind both guys in different senses. I mean, coming off the Super Juniors, these two guys seem like two of the most pushed commodities coming out of that group, even though they didn't end up in the finals of the Super Juniors. That ended up being Yo and Hiromu. Like, you look at what they've done for Desperado since then, and the big win over Hiromu in the Dome, and various title defenses, and then Show has just kind of been waiting in the wings ever since this heel turn, and kind of seemed poised to eventually be one of the guys to win this title, and that may be this coming Saturday. It is interesting that both guys are heels, but Show is clearly the more like dastardly guy. Desperado's a little more face leaning, so I'm sure he's going to be the de facto babyface going into this match. Again, this is one where if this was 2 years ago, I'd say that this match would probably be pretty awesome. But with House of Torture show, I have no high expectations whatsoever. So, not necessarily looking forward to it in the quality sense, but I am intrigued about who's going to win, especially since, again, like we said earlier, Best of the Super Juniors is just around the corner. I think that there's a lot of people who think that Show's getting the win here. And I could see why. And I think that does make sense from a certain perspective. But for me, I just find it hard to imagine that this version of Show is going into a Super Juniors as champion and is going to be doing the shtick he's doing right now every night in the main event. I got the feeling that after they established Desperado as such a strong champion, that they might need him to kind of be, again, another one of those guys that headlines the tour. It's no secret that like New Japan has been hurting financially to some extent post COVID. And I just have to ask myself from a business perspective, which one of those two guys would you run at the top of your Super Juniors? Would you run Show and Hiromu and friends, or would you run Desperado and Hiromu? And I think the answer is probably pretty clearly at this point Desperado. I think Show will be a guy that wins this title, maybe even this year. I could see that, down the line, but I think Desperado retains here.
Yeah, I'm also feeling the same way and the same logic with Super Juniors coming up. And I do know in the past they've had Super Juniors with a champion. Doesn't always main event, and you throw Hiromu in the main event, even though he's not the champion. But we did see last year's Super Juniors that Desperado did get more main events and semi-main events as champion. So once again, Super Juniors coming around the corner in May. I think just like you got to think business-wise. All right, you're probably going to throw Hiromu in there too. It seems like it might be 2 blocks again. So you throw Hiromu on one block. He's main eventing on one block. Then you need another strong draw on the other blocks to main event. So yeah, I'm going to go with Despy there and have him carry the other side of the tour.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if these two guys lock it up again in May and we see Show get the win back. But for now, it just seems to me like, I don't know. I'm just trying to imagine having Show be the champion on that tour, and whether or not that'd be a net positive from just the bottom line. And I don't think that it would be, honestly.
Right. If Show does win, it'll be a similar situation where he's not main eventing. He'll be in the match before intermission, or maybe the first match after intermission, and then Hiromu and Despy are going to be the ones still main eventing, even though Show's a champion. So it wouldn't be really a good look on Show as a champion in a situation like that. So I wouldn't put the belt on him.
Then again, devil's advocate, if you wanted to put him in a position, and this is kind of similar to like what they did with Evil a couple of years ago when they decided to test him out, you could put the belt on Show, and then you have those 2 headliners already ready to go, and then it lifts some of the heavy burden off of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're able to headline regardless. They might do that. And in fact, you might have talked me into that. I'm still going with Desperado. But like, if you're thinking from that logic, that's a possibility, you know?
Yeah.
I just think I feel like Show even might potentially, based off of how they did the last Super Juniors, he could wind up in the finals. And that's not going to happen if he's champion, you know?
Right.
So there's that to take into consideration. This is a tough one. A lot of these matches are tough to, again, because we haven't had a lot of shows like this in a long time where everything's built to this and we don't know what's coming after. So, it's kind of a fresh slate no matter what happens for all these guys and everything. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
but
you mentioned, they've done a great job of in the build of making it can go either way. Like there's a lot of people where like it can make sense for either opponent to win.
yeah, I think that's almost the whole card until we get to the main event. That's a little more touchy.
Yeah, so main event for the IWGP World Heavyweight Title, the champion Kazuchika Okada will defend against the New Japan Cup winner Zack Sabre Jr. This will be their fourth matchup. They've had two matches in New Japan, which Okada has won both of, and one in Rev Pro, which Sabre won. So it's Sabre's chance to tie it up and his chance to rectify what happened in 2018 when he won the New Japan Cup and failed to defeat Okada for the IWGP World Heavyweight Title.
Yeah. I gotta say, no matter how good or how bad this show ends up being, there's no way that this match is going to be anything less than 4 stars. So I mean, they're at the very least they're going to sleepwalk their way into a very good, but most likely probably very great match, especially considering the role that both guys are on right now. I'm very much anticipating this match just because of the intrigue. Um, like you said, they've only had, you said, 3 matches prior to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen all 3 of them. And I mean, technically, the one in Rev Pro, I mean that was a combined show, so I mean, you could even technically call that a New Japan match as well. So I mean, um, Osprey's got, or I'm sorry, I always do that with Zach and Will. ZSJ's got the 1 win in England, and then he's got the 2 losses here domestically, and he's never won the big one against anybody, but especially against Okada. I think the common thought and prevailing wisdom is that Okada is going to win. Most people think he's going to go through the rest of the year or for a prolonged period as champion, considering it's the 50th year, considering that like in May he's got like tours lined up here in the States, and then G1's coming up and everything like that, plus the Fukuoka Dome, which is a really big building that they're trying to do big business in, and that's next month in May. So all of that is sort of on the horizon. Yet I have trouble completely writing off Zack Sabre Jr. in this spot. Am I crazy for that?
I mean, I don't think so. I feel like the booking of the World Heavyweight title has been a little bit unpredictable compared to the traditional IWGP Heavyweight title. We've seen a lot of quick title changes. We've seen some different directions they've gone with that since they've created that title. So you can't throw out a Sabre winning. I think he has some chance. I think the chances are slim. Again, we talked about earlier, you think about business. New Japan had its most profitable year with Okada on top as a champion. We don't really know what Zack Sabre's drawing abilities like. Also, he's been taking a liking to by the Japanese crowd. Could he be a draw? Sure, but we just don't know. Do they want to take that chance right now, or do they want to go with Old Faithful and Kazuchika Okada, who they know for sure is going to be a draw with that title, and go the rest of the year? I mean, I've been saying since Okada won that I think he's going to be champ till next Wrestle Kingdom and go the whole 50th anniversary as a champion and try to increase some houses. But again, you could easily do a quick title change. You could have Sabre win the title and Okada eventually win it back. And then also there's the rumors of Naito challenging at the Fukuoka Dome against Okada, and also that's one of their bigger drawing matchups. Would Naito Sabre draw? I don't know. Or do they do Sabre and somebody else?
Well, let me spit this out. Just the scenario, okay? Zack Sabre shocks the world and beats Okada, okay, you might ask yourself, well, what can they do as a title match in the Fukuoka Dome that's going to draw? You could do him and Will Osprey.
Mm.
And Will's a proven draw at this point. He's headlined Tokyo Domes. He's got the numbers to back him. And then you would probably ask yourself at that point, well, what do we do about Okada? I think the obvious answer is you could still do him and Naito as the co-headliner. Now you've got two big matchups on that show.
Right. You could do the whole story of Naito kind of being pissed that Okada lost the belt. He's like, I beat you as a champ. I was getting ready to challenge you. Well, now I need to beat you again.
Yeah, and if you did do it that way, I know that that's 3 matches in quick succession, and that might be more than some people like, but when you take the title off the table, then the question of who would win between Okada and Naito, that becomes much more negotiable because you don't have a title bogging down the whole process. So, again, this is probably a highly hypothetical scenario. I don't see that realistically totally playing out that way, but you can't discount it entirely. The one thing that I'm like you when you said that you've anticipated Okada holding this title for a long time. I've been saying the same thing. I just didn't anticipate them getting such a credible challenger coming out of the New Japan Cup. I thought it was going to be someone who was credible, of course, but you could easily say they're going to lose, like an Okan, like a Jeff Cobb. But with Zach, it's a little different because we've been here already 4 years ago, right?
Right.
And could he win the New Japan Cup again and then come back and beat either Okada or someone else in the future? Sure. We've had people in the past who won the New Japan Cup multiple times, but that was a long time ago. I feel like that's a harder thing to accomplish in today's New Japan than it was, like, say, in 2006, 2007. So I don't know if that really could realistically play out. Maybe they do just leave it as like a heartbreak story. This guy gets so close and he just can't get the job done. And then maybe he can win the title through some other means down the road. That's possible too.
Well, let me throw this out here. What about some stardomism? 60-minute time limit draw.
I didn't think of that, but I mean, you've been I think between AEW doing the draws and then Stardom doing the draws, I think that's kind of influenced your ideas on some of these tougher matchups every now and again. You've predicted a couple times now.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, because if we go to what the rumor is with the original plan being Ibushi, they weren't planning on putting Zack here. Maybe they didn't want to beat Zack in the situation, and maybe you don't want to beat Okada either. So you do the 60-minute time limit draw, and then you could do Okada Sabre again down the line, and maybe Sabre does beat him.
Yeah, but then again, it's like, what, in a G1? Okay, then it's history just repeating itself. Not saying that that's exactly what happened, but like, Osprey Zach only got his win in England because he already like suffered the loss to Okada previously,
Right.
So it's the same thing as before. I just wonder, I think what throws me off about it is that we did this exact same song and dance, and now everyone's expecting the exact same outcome, and that is the most likely thing. But what if they audible and go the opposite way? Plus, what you mentioned that, there were reports coming from Voices of Wrestling with their Patreon that Kota Ibushi was supposed to be the guy to win this tournament and then go on to face Okada in this spot. There are those who wondered, what if Ibushi was going to beat him? Because Ibushi is definitely a guy that could hypothetically beat Okada in that spot. And being that he's a former world champion himself, what if that was the plan all along? And what if they're just slipping Zack Sabre into that spot and they're doing the same thing with him that they were going to do with Ibushi? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of uncertainties there. A lot of people that can plug in and out of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with the safe bet here. I'm going to go with Okada winning. If Sabre wins, I think it'll be cool. Sabre's been on, like you mentioned, on a great run lately. Really been on fire, and yeah, I think it'd be something cool. I think it would get a lot of people talking if Sabre were to win.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, from like just a practical business perspective, like we mentioned, Fukuoka Dome's coming up, a US tour's coming up, and then you got G1 not too long after that. Okada makes a lot of sense. But outside of just your live gate business, thinking a little further ahead, a little bit outside the box, what would get more interest in the product overall? Would it be Okada just having a legendary run like he's had in the past? Maybe long term, if you commit to it and he has really great matches the whole way, we could recapture some of that 2017, 2018 magic. That is possible. But if they did switch the belt to Zack Sabre Jr., is that something that could get people intrigued enough to want to watch New Japan like they were in the past? Speaking of international audiences, or even domestic, because I've heard that some of the interest over there has been kind of down too. That's hard to say. I don't know which would be the better way to go. If that would be like something that could benefit their business.
Right. Yeah.
I think they're going with Okada though, and I only say that just because like this really isn't a company that takes a lot of risks.
Especially when they're already hurting.
Yeah, especially when they're hurting, especially when it's the 50th anniversary and they've got all the things lined up that I just we both made mention of. I think the match is going to be fantastic either way, and I'm going to be on the edge of my seat because there is a little bit of doubt. And that is the nice thing. The first time they wrestled, I don't think I thought Sabre had any shot at beating him. This time, he's got a lot of ways he can beat him. He has so many different various submission holds. He's got numerous pins that he didn't even break out during this tournament. But I mean, all these different clutches and everything like that, plus the Zack driver. Like, there's a lot he could potentially do to beat Okada.
Yeah, so should be a really great main event matchup here. I have a question from Less Commission 7252. Who should be the next challenger for either Okada or Sabre after Hyper Battle? If Sabre wins, it should be Osprey. If Okada wins, maybe Kenta if he's clear to return.
I think it's going to be Naito for Okada no matter what. Regardless of whether Naito or Okada wins or not, I think he's wrestling Naito next at the Fukuoka Dome. But yeah, I think if it was through some miracle, if Zack were to win, then it'd probably be Osprey. Or you could do Zack Sabre Jr. versus Okada, the rematch at the Fukuoka Dome, just right off the bat.
Yeah. I mean, part of me wants to say Naito is going to be the next challenger regardless because he had that win over Okada as champion. But like you mentioned, you could just do a straight up non-title Naito Okada and do the Osprey. The only thing for the Osprey, I guess there is the whole contested finish. Osprey,
Right.
Osprey can say, I did not tap out. You didn't beat me. You won my New Japan Cup. Now you've won my title match. Give me the match so I can get what was rightfully mine.
Yeah, there's also another X factor we're not taking into account is what if Kota Ibushi is now cleared and ready and he comes out and challenges either man regardless of what happens. That's also a possibility that we haven't discussed. And I kind of like what you mentioned. What if they did go to a draw? If they went to a draw, then that would call for possibly an immediate rematch. That's also a possibility.
Yeah. MJ's PR says, indulge me a bit in hyperbole here. Hyperbole here. Has the Suzuki Gun face turn been one of the richest and most nuanced storylines NJPW has ever told?
I don't know if I would agree with that. Because I guess I'm just thinking here. So there's a lot of history, a lot of rich history with all of these guys in a faction. And yes, like it has been like a slow burn sort of build to them turning. But at the same time, I don't know, if I were to think of like some of the richer stories that have occurred in New Japan, the growth of this and the transition of this one faction over, I don't even know how long they've been around now, like since what, 2005, 2006, something like that. I don't know if I would compare that necessarily to some of the other major stories that New Japan has had, but I guess you could make an argument if you really start to think about it, from like the turn against Kojima and all the like different trips that they made outside of the company, and the guys that came in, the guys that left, and the bonds that forged. And you look at the trajectories of like Tai Chi and Desperado. Yeah, I guess you could make some argument for that, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I when I think of like the rich stories, I don't know. There's other ones that I'd probably rate above that.
Yeah, I guess for me, these guys they're not fully face yet. I know they're probably more face leaning in a lot of situations, but at the end of the day, I still think Saber's still a heel, Tai Chi's still a heel, Suzuki's still a heel, Desperado's still a heel. I feel like obviously Kanemaru, I feel like a lot of them are still do kind of heel tactics, and when face up against a baby face, they're going to be the heel in the matchup, but they're also gain enough love and respect where you can put them, like Desperado, you can put him against Sho, and Desperado's probably going to get cheered. You can put Tai Chi up against some, against the heel, he's probably going to get cheered. Saber's probably, it might be a split crowd for Saber or Okada, but I'm not willing to say that these guys are full on, it's a full on face turn just yet.
Well, one thing too, I do agree with him. When you think about it, the mythos of this and the legend of this group, it is very rich. But I also agree with him when he says it's nuanced. I think it's almost too nuanced. So much so that like you kind of have to dig really deep into the history of each individual and their connections to one another to appreciate and understand the history of Suzuki as a faction. And there, that is nice. You get rewarded as like a diehard fan of the group, but at the same time, like there is something where like it can be too nuanced, and I feel like it's almost self-contained within the group itself. It's not something that like for instance like New Japan is always promoting, and I guess that's part of why I disagree a little bit, because there are other stories with like let's say Lij, their story, it's right out there front and center, and it is a rich story as well, but it's not quite as nuanced. It doesn't mean that it's a simple story, but it's one that the company has promoted through matches, through VTRs, through all these different promotional things. Suzuki-gun's not so much like that. Like a lot of their stories are under the radar, and the company isn't really pushing them to the forefront through their feuds and anything like that. So for me, that's the one drawback, is like when you compare that to other stuff, like just for instance, like the Tale of the Golden Lovers. That's something where like that's extremely rich too. It spans multiple companies, but you can figure out what the whole history is because it was highly promoted. Whereas a lot of the stuff with Suzuki-gun, it's just not that out there. You have to really dig for it.
Right, I feel like there's a lot of like ancillary stuff, like the Takataichi Mania, kind of stuff like that. Some JTOs. There's some kind of outside stuff that plays into a lot of their story that doesn't really get always highlighted in New Japan, like you mentioned. So last question here on Hyper Battle from Rambo and Slam Pig. Which title is most likely to change hands at Hyper Battle?
In my opinion, the heavyweight tag team titles.
Yeah, I would go with the heavyweight tag team titles. I would say the junior tag titles would be second. All right, let's shift gears here and talk about New Japan Strong. So this past Saturday, we had the first night of the Strong Style Evolve Tour that took place right here in St. Petersburg / Tampa, Florida. So we had the opening night of the tour here. The show kicked off with Team Filthy, JR Kratos, and Black Tiger defeating the Chaos team of Rocky Romero and Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah, cool thing with this show. So as you guys are starting to watch the Strong Style Evolved tour, if you are watching the entrances and the hard cam in the back 2 or 3 rows on the left of your screen, you will be able to see Keeping It Strong Style as well as the rest of the Social Suplex and Largo Loop crew. We kind of took up that whole area. So you'll see us with our significant others and with our friends and kind of just booing the bad guys, getting into the matches. During the entrance for this match, you'll know it's us specifically because Rocky comes right over to our side and gives us the fist bump, and that wasn't like oh, here's some guys. Like Rocky looked right at us and he's like, oh, there's my boys, let me go
Yeah.
dab them up. So all throughout the tour, I wanted to actually post it online, but I was like, oh shit, we'll probably get our if I screenshot this and I post it, we will get pulled. So I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But match number 1 was fine. Good match. Kind of continues the whole thing with Black Tiger and Team Filthy against Rocky Romero. They take the loss there. Post match, there was a backstage promo where Wheeler Yuta talks about being frustrated, needing to make a change. He's been in the loss column one too many times, and he might have a change on the horizon. So I think even back then, they were trying to possibly work in the potential for his ongoing storyline in AEW, where he is leaving Best Friends, aka Extended Chaos, and attempting to join this Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even the groundwork for that was kind of even laid here a little bit.
Yeah. There was also another angle that happened in the ring where Kratos is ragging on Tom Brady, and then Alex Coughlin comes out, and there's those guys brawl, and there was a pull apart there. So they're continuing the Coughlin Kratos story. Obviously, Coughlin got the big win over Kratos a couple of months ago in his last Young Lion match, but also Kratos wants that win back. So I can see those guys doing something at Windy City Riot.
Yeah, shout out to my training partner, Leo King. He was one of the ring attendants in the back just behind us, and he got involved in the pull apart here, and he's actually the gentleman that Alex Coughlin or Jared Kratos, one of those two guys, just picks up and throws like a dart at the other guy. So
Coughlin darted him at Kratos.
Yeah, so good job, Leo.
Then after that match, we had a match with FinJuice, Dave Finlay and Juice Robinson. They defeated the Mighty Don't Kneel, Jonah and Shane Hayes via disqualification. Match started for a wild brawl. They fought on the outside for a good bit before the match even officially started. And then the match finally started, back and forth, and then Shane Hayes uses a chair to get a DQ.
Yeah, so not a satisfying finish to a pretty good and entertaining wild brawl, but it is what it is. Post match, we got a promo between these guys and talking about how they want to fight each other in Chicago and they don't want a disqualification to be the reason the match ends. So they're going to have a Chicago street fight. It's going to be 3-on-3. So it's the Mighty Don't Kneel with Bad Dude Tito taking on FinJuice and mystery partner X. And we had a question here from Fit Beautiful 2638 asking about this match, inquiring who we think X might be. And he threw out the suggestion that Colt Cabana has some experience with New Japan. It's in Chicago. Maybe it could be him. And I think that that's not a bad suggestion.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's been a while since we've seen Colt in New Japan. Obviously, there was a lot of plans for him pre-COVID. So for being in Chicago, you want that pop, Chicago street fight. I think Juice is from Chicago. Could be some Chicago connections.
It's just that's fine. But if you're in Chicago and you have a mystery person appearing and you want to really make, an impact, then you need to look in my eyes. What do you see? The cult of personality. I think X is none other than
Phillip Brooks.
Yeah, Phil Brooks, aka CM Punk. CM Punk is going to be joining forces with Finjuice to take on the Mighty Don't Kneel and blow the roof off the house. And that's what's happening. Also, Chris Sampson, he's pretty scrappy, and he's a Chicago native as well. And we can't really discount his involvement in this feud as well.
Yeah, he likes to hide behind the numbers, make us think that he's just a stat guy. When this guy, he's a rock star, all right? this guy, he's probably been in some bar fights. He's very scrappy. I'm saying we should push the narrative right now that Chris Sampson is the third man.
Yeah, but whose side is he on? There's a lot of people it could be. I thought the Blake Christian suggestion could have made sense. Jeremy, you don't have to spoil us, but you saw that Lonestar Shootout taping, so maybe you have more insight. But the moment I saw that match again, I thought to myself, maybe there's an angle here. Maybe he could get involved in this match. Maybe he could be the third man, especially since they seem to be pushing him to some degree within the company anyways. So I don't know. That might be my guess.
I'll say this. Based off of what I saw, I did not think that they would
come to that conclusion.
I did not think about that. But again, I haven't seen it with commentaries. Maybe there was stuff on commentary that got brought up that maybe they do go that route. But just based off the match itself, I would not say it's Blake Christian.
It also could be what was the younger brother's name? Was it Logan Finlay?
Yeah.
Okay, because I couldn't remember if it's Brogan or
actually you're right. I think it is Brogan actually.
Or is it Logan or is it Brogue Kick? Like, I don't know.
I think it's Brogan. I think it is Brogan Finlay.
Well, he got his ass handed by these guys, not too long ago. So maybe they bring him in, that family connection. Also, how do we know it's not Fit Finlay?
I mean, David did bust out the shillelagh here on the show to help get the advantage back. So, yeah, maybe that was all a tease. And, he called his dad.
I think we spent too much time speculating here.
So main event, strong openweight title. Filthy Tom Lawler successfully defends the title against the Wild Rhino Clark Connors.
I rewatched this today, and we saw this live, and the way I felt live was one way, and I wondered if when I rewatched it if I'd feel that same way or if I'd have difference of opinions. I gotta tell you, I kind of felt the exact same way. I didn't like this match that much. I'm a big fan of Clark Connors, and I liked the story that they were telling with him and Tom Lawler and everything like that. And I thought the VTR that they produced before the match was really great. What didn't make sense to me, and maybe this is gonna be the story moving forward, but Clark has kind of been this hard-nosed, representative of the LA dojo, this guy that's all business, who gets the job done, who fucks people up. He's kind of a badass. And he came out on this night and he's got the pink shorts, and then he pulls off the pink jeans, and he's got the white cutoff jeans, and then he's pulling those off, and he's like kind of like playing in the crowd and doing indie bullshit stuff that you would see at a spot show, not something that I would expect to see in New Japan in a title match in the quasi main event of a show like this. So considering the amount of time they got to work and the type of build that they had leading into this, I was surprised at the playful banter and the playful games that they played in the early part. And then the work in the match is good, but it just didn't really kick into the high end gear, which has been kind of the one complaint I have had about Filthy's matches in New Japan, where they're technically really good. Sometimes they get great, but they seem to never get into that next really dramatic mode. Maybe that's because there's more of a sense of realism. But towards the tail end of the match, both guys landed big moves against one another. They both kicked out at one. They're firing up. Everything's good. They're going into a elbow spot where they're just trading forearms. And then it looks like Clark is going to pick him up for maybe a backdrop suplex. Filthy Tom is able to use that momentum to take him over in a headlock. He transitions that reversal into a straitjacket, gives him a Kamigoye, turns it around, puts him in a straitjacket, Kamigoyes him to the back of the head. I don't know what he's calling the move, but that's what he did. And then got the 1-2-3, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. So it wasn't even a bad finish. It just was sort of unexpected. Like right when the match was picking up, it kind of died for me. And so I was a little disappointed from that, especially since this was a match I was really anticipating a lot. I'd probably still go 3.5. I thought the match was good, but I could have done without the cheesing and the playing stuff in the beginning. And I feel like they should have maybe added a little more intensity and gone a little harder at the end there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. You know, I was very confused as to why Connors was coming out. I get like he's playing mind games by wearing the jean shorts and trying to wear shorter shorts than Philly Tom, but this rivalry didn't really call for that. It didn't make sense. Like, and that's what I was wondering, all right, maybe the Rivals Tour will show us something that we missed, that why Clark is doing that. But the last Rivals show was the elimination match, Team Rosser versus Team Filthy, where Clark eliminated himself and Filthy with the spear, and they brawled off the stage. So this whole rivalry has been very serious. You know, the tour previous to that in Seattle, where Clark had called out Filthy at the end, and wanted to fight him right there. Like, this has all been like a very kind of serious rivalry. Clark finally getting a shot at, you know, he defeated TJP, big win, and finally getting a shot here at Philly Tom, but then, yeah, coming out with the pink shorts and the white, like, Daisy Dukes, it just didn't fit Clark's character to me, or what this whole rivalry was about. So I think that was all confusing. And then plus the fact that we talked about, you know, this was a pretty fairly new crowd to Strong, and this was a story that was built for a while, but there wasn't good crowd heat for it because a lot of people haven't been watching what's going on. So it just kind of lacked that same atmosphere that some other Strong style matches we've seen on Strong, where it's more of a New Japan fan base and they know what's going on and they're more into the guys. So I think that hurt the match also. But like you said, very well wrestled. Just some stuff that kind of brought it down. And yeah, I would go about 3.5.
Yeah. So that is going to do it for this week's episode. Next week is night 2 of Strong Style Evolved. We have Hicaleo versus Andy Brown, Eddie Kingston and Fred Rosser versus Daniel Garcia and Fred Yehai, Josh Alexander versus Carl Fredericks, and then the main event, the USFJ Open Challenge, as Jay White takes on Chris Sabin. We talked about this previously. These matches are all out of order from what we saw that evening, but like, just to give you guys a little context, like the Filthy Clark Connors match was like the 7th match of the night, and then the USFJ Open Challenge match was the main event. That was like the 13th match of the night. So I am really wondering, and those were like the 2 most important matches, the ones that I would have imagined would headline the televised version of the tour. And we're getting those 2 main events the first 2 episodes. So I am wondering how they decide to present the remainder of the matches as time goes on. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, 2 biggest matches, first 2 weeks of the tour. I'm trying to remember what else happened that could be, you know, big main events to close the tour.
Maybe Swerve and Blake Christian. That match was
awesome.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, got great reaction. So yeah, maybe they close with something like that. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see here. But this is a lot of the matches here, really, really good. The Kingston tag match, great heat for that Kingston and Garcia rivalry. Alexander and Frederick was good, and then also Jay White and Chris Sabin was another really good match. So
nice.
Should be good there.
Well, let's jump to the news. We had a Windy City Riot news that just came out. This show is going to be airing on Fight TV pay-per-view April 16th. Announced talent for the show: Fred Rosser, Josh Alexander, Chris Dickinson, Ren Narita, and Alex Coughlin. They'll be taking on the team of Team Filthy, Royce Isaacs, Jarrell Nelson, Jared Kratos, Black Tiger, and Danny Limelight. So we have a big tag match lined up for that show. Also, there will be a USFJ Open Challenge. They have not announced the challenger for that match just yet. They did set up Suzuki versus Ishii this past week during WrestleMania weekend. And so that is going to play out here at Windy City Riot. That's a big grudge match that's kind of been building both with New Japan of USA as well as the domestic products. So that one should be great. And then they also announced that Filthy Tom Lawler will defend the strong openweight title against Yuji Nagata in Chicago. This match was announced Monday evening. So I think this is the first time we're getting a strong openweight title defense that does not occur on New Japan Strong itself.
Yeah, I think this is Phil Tom's first singles match on one of these New Japan US pay-per-views.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good thing. I mean, if a lot of people probably aren't taking this into consideration, but his title reign, I think he's 8 or 9 title defenses in to that reign, which is
this will be the 9th defense.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting not that far from Okada's 12 defenses of the IWGP heavyweight title. Just put it into context.
Yeah, and they just announced another match for Windy City Riot, a big 10-man tag. We're going to have Aussie Open joining up here, the whole United Empire, Aussie Open, Aaron Hanary, Jeff Cobb, TJP, and the Great Okan. They'll be taking on the Bullet Club team of Chris Bay, ELP, Hicaleo, the Good Brothers, and Scott Norton.
Wow, that's a pretty crazy one. They don't have the entirety of United Empire though, because Bucciardi is not going to be there.
Right.
Or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Francisco Akira won't be there, but yeah, so the remaining, because obviously Osprey is facing Mox, so the remaining Empire guys all teaming up. So this is actually a 12-man tag. So 6 United Empire versus the 6 of Bullet Club with Scott Norton. So I guess Scott Norton is now officially Bullet Club.
I don't think he's officially Bullet Club. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see.
I'm looking at the graphic. He's on the Bullet Club side, and he has to have Bullet Club underneath him.
In other news, this is a big story. The Great Okan is being honored for having saved a girl from an assault. On the evening of March 29th, Khan reportedly subdued an inebriated 61-year-old man who had grabbed a 10-year-old girl by both shoulders. Khan had seen the man harassing the girl before stepping in to intervene. The incident took place outside J.R. Musashi Kasugai Station in Kawasaki City. The Nakahara police honored Khan on Monday, April 4th with a letter of appreciation for his efforts. He told Tokyo Sports that the recognition was more valuable to him than a championship belt. So pretty big news story there. I've even heard a more detailed account, and apparently this man was acting very inappropriately, bordering on sexual assault, possible rape. And Okan stepped in and I think not only apprehended the guy, possibly fucked him up. So we had some questions here, quite a few comments. So why did you do that, bro? Asked, is Great Okan the best babyface in all of New Japan?
Well, I mean, based off of this, maybe he is.
He did get positive reception from the fans in Korakuen during this past Monday show. I did see the backstage comments, and he tried to maintain kayfabe through this and talk about how he enacts justice as he sees fit. So trying to still, mold it to his character.
Yeah.
But then he was like, but the very same people who are trying to honor me are the same people who ridiculed me and threw rocks at me and blah, blah, blah. So you know what I'm saying? So he's trying to turn it, which is what you should do if you're a heel. So
right. But I do think it'll be great for his just popularity domestically.
Yeah. The Dark Soldier asked, Great Okan stopped a woman from getting raped. How am I supposed to boo him now?
You don't. I guess if you don't want to, cheer him.
I will boo him.
I think Great Okan's awesome. So
Boots and Burns said, it seems that Great Okan subdued a creepy old man who is into young girls. On an unrelated note, how would a hypothetical match with Great Okan and Jerry Lawler go? And then Viking Payne said, does Gigi Chad exist, and why is it Great Okan?
Well, hold on. We're just going to skip over this Great Okan Jerry Lawler match. What would happen?
Oh, I mean, you know why he has that, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I was like, do I need to address the know,
No.
Jerry Lawler's a sex pest, you know,
No,
slash possible pedophile thing.
I know that, but how would the match go? You know,
I mean, if this was in Memphis, it'd probably be fantastic. If this was an '80s Memphis match, Lawler's one of the greatest '80s workers around. Period. Like for me, he's a top 5 '80s guy. Period. And Okan coming in as the great Okan with the get up and everything and all his skills, it'd be a classic.
it'd be
The
like,
Mid South Coliseum would go ape shit.
and of course Lawler would have to win though.
Not necessarily. He did a lot of jobs. He'd get the win back sometime though.
But yeah, Viking Pain's question about I don't know what Giga Chad is.
I don't know what Giga Chad is either because we're cool. Or maybe we're lame. I don't know. Is Giga Chad cool? I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Let me see if I can do a quick Google search here and see if I can quickly find out what the heck Giga Chad is.
While you're doing that, United Empire has an online meet and greet coming up on April 11th. So you want to meet and greet with the United Empire? There's your chance to do it. Did you find out what Giga Chad was?
Okay, so there's a Giga Chad Know Your Meme article. So pulling this up here.
Bro, this is too involved.
See, Giga Chad is a nickname associated with the art project Berlin 1969. Ernest Kalimov, which is a series of Photoshop photographs of several models created by Russian photographer Krista Sudomalis for her project Sleek and Tears. The name Giga Chad indicates that the person who's initially assumed to be real is the ultimate Chad Thundercock.
No. This is too much. I can't jump into into all of that. I'm getting tired on the show anyway, so we got to move on.
Yeah, a lot of lore there.
Gabe Kidd, who is out of wrestling right now, battling mental health issues, was on Twitter and got into a beef with Dax Harwood. Harwood made a comment that his lockup with CM Punk last week was worth 7 stars. Kidd then responded 2.35 stars and put out a video of his own. Hard and tight lockup. Harwood then said his lockup kept 1.2 million people watching his match and that Kidd had only 40 fans. Some fans reached out to Osprey on Twitter about Kidd's behavior, knowing that the two are friends, and Osprey has looked out for his well-being in the past. Within a few minutes, Kidd deleted his entire Twitter account. So it looks like there's still some ongoing issues there. With Gabe Kidd, we kind of talked about it very recently, some of the mental health issues that were kind of occurring, and that he was taking a time away from wrestling, and then it was supposed to be also social media while he was seeking out help. It looks like the allure of social media maybe got to him. We wish him all the best and hope that he returns healthy and is able to compete in the future.
Yeah.
Australia and New Zealand wrestlers Michael Richards, Andrew Villalobos, and Jake Taylor have been signed by New Japan to be young boys. They've all young the Lions. They've all trained out of the Fale Dojo in New Zealand. We kind of covered that last week. It was detailed on the Lions Roar television show in the finale. Monday's free match of the week was Jay White versus Kazuchika Okada from April 6, 2019, the Madison Square Garden main event. If you've never seen that match, highly recommended. In other news, Taichi is replacing Sonata on the NJPW All Japan Pro Wrestling Korakuen Hall 60th birthday festival, Saturday, April 16th. So that is coming up shortly. And then earlier today, there was an announcement about Warrior Wrestling partnering with New Japan Strong to present the Dojo Showcase in April, May, and June. Now, I didn't read through all this, Jeremy. Maybe you can give us the brief recap. What's going on with Warrior Wrestling and New Japan Strong?
Yeah, so essentially, Warrior Wrestling, they're doing 3 shows, April, May, and June, that will feature guys who have graduated from the LA Dojo. And the first one will be Saturday, April 23rd, Warrior Wrestling 21. It'll be Carl Fredericks taking on Clark Connors. On that same show, Osprey will defend the Warrior Wrestling Championship against Blake Christian. Also a special appearance by Thunder Rosa. And so going forward in the future shows, there'll be LA Dojo guys facing off against each other on these Warrior Wrestling summer shows.
Yeah, interesting. We've seen a lot of interaction or just like showcase of New Japan talent on those Warrior Wrestling shows over the past few years. So kind of strengthening that relationship, which is pretty cool. So nice. Well, that's going to do it for the news this week. We've got some questions, and then we're going to get to recommend a match of the week and then get out of here.
Yeah, so Rainbow and Slam Pick asks, which LA dojo or NJPW strong talents will have the most immediate significant impact or shake up the roster in Japan the most once they can freely travel there?
I'm just going to throw out two names for the sake of brevity. From the LA dojo, I think Alex Coughlin, possibly Ren Narita, but I'm actually going to go with Coughlin just initially. And then from New Japan Strong, I'm going to go with Chris Dickinson.
Just to throw some other names out there, from LA, I'm going to go with Yuya Yamura, and then for Strong, I'm gonna go with Filthy Tom.
Nice.
Wiz Factor asks, will we ever see a member of LIJ in a New Japan of America tour, or is it all hands on deck for LIJ to sell more tickets for the Japanese shows?
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head as far as why we don't see more LIJ representation in North America. I do recall in the early days of this podcast, there was like a 5 or 6 date tour where Tetsuya Naito, coming off of his Wrestle Kingdom loss to Okada, he did a tour in the States. They sold out almost every single show that he was featured on. He was wrestling for like Wrestling Revolver and different places like that. But since then, they haven't really been to the States. They typically used to have LIJ as featured acts on those big Rev Pro shows throughout the year pre-pandemic. But for whatever reason, they just haven't gotten them over here to the States. And I think it mostly does have to do with, needing them to hold down the ticket sales over domestically in Japan.
Yeah, and I feel like LIJ was also brought over a lot for the Ring of Honor War of the Worlds tour.
That's right.
They were always a featured act. Hiromu got a lot of stuff going on there as well in Ring of Honor. So, yeah, I think they need them for ticket sales.
Those tours didn't do well after a while. Remember, they started burning out and did less and less. And so maybe that is part of it too.
Yeah. Dark Soldier asks, he says, the United Empire are such bros, being there for each other's matches and cheering one another. ZSJ and Taichi are also bros. What with Taichi being the happiest about ZSJ winning the New Japan Cup. Meanwhile, Okada probably ignores Chaos members' matches, probably taking a shit while it occurs, or he's rooting for Chaos to lose. Is this another example of Okada's poor leadership?
If you say so. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. There's a narrative. It's out there. People believe this. So
sounds like Okada needs to control his narrative.
Yeah.
He also asks, what is your favorite Cody Rhodes moment or match in NJPW?
Oh, that's a good question. So as far as my favorite match of his, it's easily the Kota Ibushi match from Wrestle Kingdom, I believe, 12.
Yep.
Yeah, that match is awesome. He actually had some pretty good matches in New Japan, but that's going to be my favorite match of his. As far as favorite moment, well, I think the moment where he came down to the ring in the middle of Omega Okada with the white towel and threatened to throw the towel in on Omega during that 1 hour draw. That's got to be one of those moments that definitely is up there. The time that Haku kicked his ass at the Cow Palace, that sticks out. And I'll just throw this out there too. I know it's just New Japan adjacent, but on Being the Elite, when Kenny Omega and him got into the fight in Australia in the backstage where they had the full Bullet Club all together and they had the pull apart, and he called him the 3-star savior. That's probably my favorite.
For me, the Ibushi match is also my favorite match of his, and one of my favorite moments would be the moment where him and Hangman jump Kenny, and then Ibushi makes a save, and you get the great call, Ibushi, Ibushi.
That's another really great one. He tells Kenny, he's like, it wasn't your night. It's not about you,
Yeah.
He's like, you had a great match. You lost. Let's go. And they're like, you think they're brothers, and they're like, oh
no. Hawaiian Punch VV says, have you watched all glorious 8 hours of Hiromu sleeping in Korakuen Hall?
Yeah, for those of you guys that don't know, last week they aired an 8-hour stream live of Hiromu sleeping at Korakuen Hall. I checked it out for half a second. Fast forward, they're attendants cleaning Korakuen Hall, walking up and down um, you know, the stairs. I don't know. This is some weird avant-garde shit.
Yeah, I did not watch any of it, but I heard people thought it was funny. Also asked thoughts on the 2 title fights on the upcoming UFC card.
Who's fighting?
I have no idea. It's been a while since I've watched a UFC pay-per-view.
Oh, okay. Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie and Aljamain Sterling versus Peter Yan. Yeah, I think those are both kind of interesting. Honestly, the only match that I'm really interested in is Kazmat Chimaev against Gilbert Burns, because Chimaev is this fucking monster killer, but he's never fought anybody like Gilbert Burns yet, so it's a huge test. And I'm really interested in that. As far as do you know about the Aljamain Sterling Peter Yan fight? What happened last time, Jeremy?
I don't think I do.
So they were having a fight, and Sterling got hit with an illegal strike while he was down, and then he just stayed down and quote unquote couldn't continue. But I don't think he was that hurt, but he won the title because he got hit with an illegal strike and couldn't continue. It's one of the only times in the history of MMA that this has ever happened, and he was not winning that fight when this happened. So Aljamain Sterling is good. I'm going to take Peter Yan in that fight. And I think Korean Zombie is a great veteran, but I don't think he's really got a realistic shot against Volkanovski. So I think the 2 guys favored in those fights are probably going to win.
Nice. Downhoy 101 says, long time no see you guys. With things seemingly going back to normal, what are some things that we could expect from NJPW in the next 12 to 24 months?
Hopefully audiences that can talk and speak and cheer.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that's really going to get things back to normal, is getting the crowd vocal again.
Bringing in outsiders from outside the country and letting the domestic stars go abroad to wrestle as well. That's another thing.
Yeah. Viking Pain says, in honor of the Steiner Brothers, Vader, and the Undertaker Hall of Fame inductions, what are your favorite matches from them?
Oh, geez. Oh, fuck. Okay. My favorite Steiner Brothers match is probably the match with Kensuke Sasaki and Hiroshi Hase from New Japan.
Yeah,
you
showed me that match, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that match was awesome.
Yeah, it fucking rules. Also, there's a Steiner Brothers versus Hart Brothers match that exists out there. It was only ever on Coliseum Home Video. You can probably find it on Daily Motion, or if you have Peacock Network, if you really dig through the archives, I think it's on one of those Coliseum videos. But the Steiner Brothers versus Brett and Owen, that match is incredible. If you've never seen it, you should probably check it out. As far as Vader goes, my favorite Vader match is the Ric Flair match from Starrcade 93.
Yeah, I don't know if I like Vader matches, but I don't really have one that I consider my favorite.
I have so many. I love Vader so much. In terms of New Japan Vader, probably the Inoki match in 1996, the Tokyo Dome match. That one's incredible, where he literally almost kills Inoki. So, and he's got maybe the Stan Hansen match where Stan Hansen pops Vader's eye out of his head ball. Yeah, it's a crazy match.
For Taker, I would say one of the Shawn Michaels WrestleMania, either 25 or 26 match, probably the first one.
That I really like the Hell in a Cell match with Shawn from 1997. That's up there. The match with Kurt Angle from No Way Out in 2006, which people forget about, is a legendary classic.
The first Brock Lesnar Hell in a Cell from 03.
The 2015 Hell in a Cell match with Brock Lesnar rules as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a big fan. I like Taker. There's a lot of Taker matches I do like a lot. The Triple H Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah.
From WrestleMania. there's a lot. Yeah.
Has any updates on Jay White in Japan? Will he be able to finally get back to Japan anytime soon?
I don't know. I don't talk to the guy like that. I'm not checking on his visa status, so maybe we could ask around. I don't know.
Yeah. His last question: Logan Paul for the G1, but for real, the dude has some more star potential than Dominic Mysterio / Guerrero.
He knows how to work a hard cam, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made the comment in the group chat, like a lot of these celebrities get pro wrestling more than majority of the roster and know how to play the camera, know how to kind of like get heat and play a character and progress the match a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, like, I'll tell you, as someone who's stood on top of a ring, on top of a top rope, him hitting that frog splash, that's not easy. Like, I'm petrified of coming off the top rope for anything.
Dude.
So, like, that idea is so insane to me.
I remember when I went on the top rope in a ring in the backyard, and I was like, oh, this is definitely different than standing on like a like a mat or something. Like, it's so different. I was like, I see a reason why people don't want to go up here.
Yeah.
So last thing, recommended match of the week. So I failed to put the poll out last week through all my travels and getting ready to head to Dallas. So we'll try to remember to get the poll out this week to what we're going to do versus normal recommended match versus excursion match of the week. So last week, Josh, we went for an excursion match, and you had us watch TJP versus Volador Jr., and thought this match was awesome. It's just one of those matches where you watch it and you see, man, TJP is just so good. He's such a good wrestler. I know he says some dumb stuff on Twitter. People don't like him, but just judging his ability to professionally wrestle, the guy is awesome. A lot of cool spots here between him and Volador. TJP, I thought it was interesting. He was accompanied by our boy Cavanario. And it's kind of great back and forth here between him and Volador. And Volador ended up getting the win at the end here. TJP was working heel most of the match. At the end of the match, they did kind of shake hands towards the end there, but really fun match. Ton of great high flying. Some cool spots they did on the stage as well. So really, really fun matchup. Matches on YouTube, easy access, and it was a really fun matchup.
Nice. As far as, would you recommend this match, just generally speaking?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What star rating would you go on this?
Probably around 4.
4, okay. Based off that, do you think that this could be an excursion match of the year contender?
As of right now, yeah, probably a lower kind of fringe.
For me, I mean, based on our standards, I would say if you're giving it a 4, and I think I was probably like 4 to 4.25, I'd probably say no.
Yeah.
But you should still check it out. I think the one thing that hurt it more so than anything else was the crowd. One of the quieter, like, Friday night. And again, this was November during the pandemic, so that's a part of it. But and also, I don't know that the audience was as enthralled with TJP's wrestling style as, say, like your traditional lucha libre, but they didn't seem to react the way that, like, say, a Western crowd would have.
Right. So for this week, I decided to go with a normal recommended match until we get the poll out there to see what we're actually going to do going forward. So since Zack Sabre Jr. is in a title match this coming up Saturday, I picked a Zack Sabre match, and this match is on New Japan World. It's Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kushida, April 13th, 2017, Rev Pro Epic Encounters for the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen this match, so looking forward to checking it out.
Well, that's going to wrap things up for us here this week on Keeping It Strong Style. Next week, we'll be back to review Hyper Battle and cover all the latest news. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. And follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/Social Suplex. Also in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences, hosted by Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd and Austin. The AEW Match Guy Podcast, hosted by Sir Sam. The Great Match Generator, hosted by Danny. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Itchy Bond.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
Underdog Fantasy is the fastest growing fantasy app and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Just jump on UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft your team, and that's it. And if drafts aren't your thing, they also have a pick'em game where you can win 20 times your money in a single night. Use promo code RADIO, and Underdog will double your first deposit when you sign up with up to $100 in bonus cash. Deposit $100, get $100 free. That's promo code RADIO. Terms and conditions apply.